Good afternoon and a very warm welcome to everyone. My name is Ruchita Anand and I welcome you all to the sixth episode of our NayaBharat e-series on behalf of Participation in School Education, SEG of Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, IIT Delhi Ministry of Education. Before we start, we have a few housekeeping rules which need to be followed. Participants joining us on the WebEx should not unmute their mic until and unless asked for. For the participants who are joining us through YouTube, you may ask questions from the speakers by posting on the YouTube chat box along with your names. To begin our session, let me introduce you to Professor Numesh B. Bolia, the person behind the Naya Bharat e-series. Professor Numesh Bolia is a professor in the Department of Mechanical Engineering at IIT Delhi. With a BTech from IIT Bombay and PhD in Operations Research from UNC Chapel Hill in the US, his research and innovation interests are in operations research and its applications to public systems, policy, and governance, especially in areas such as school education. He is the national coordinator of the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan's subject expert group on participation in schools. Professor Bolia is the recipient of several national international awards and grants, such as Indo-US Science and Technology Forum's Public Health Fellowship and DAD Research Stays. He has published several papers in international journals of repute, consulted many companies in the public-private sector in India, and mentored startups in the broad domain of operations research. His vision and commitment to the area of industrial engineering and operations research have been recognized by the Government of India by nominating him as a member of the Board of Governors of the National Institute of Industrial Engineering, India's premier institute in this area. Professor Numesh is also the national coordinator of the ASEAN PhD Fellowship Program of the Government of India, which aims to harness the potential of India-ASEAN cooperation through education and research. I now request Professor Bolia to kindly introduce us to the Naya Bharat e-series and take us further towards the webinar.
Okay. Thank you, Ruchika. A very warm welcome to all of you. Namaste, everyone. It's a great pleasure to be with all of you again. Unnat Bharat Abhiyan is really an idea whose time had come, and at the right time, 2014, the whole thing started. It is unbelievable that so far we did not think of a systematic program to connect the higher education institutions to the grassroots of the country. It finally happened, and I'm glad to be able to present before you this e-series where we have essentially chosen themes that align with the National Education Policy 2020, and we present before you some principles as well as bring gems from the grassroots that have really implemented some of these aspects. So if you were to ask me, my own research and fieldwork plus that of various people associated with me tells me that much of what the NEP 2020 talks about has actually been implemented to some extent or to a large extent by various individuals, organizations, schools. If only we were to put together all of these ideas, I think it will go a long way in institutions that want to implement the NEP 2020 in their respective premises now. With this idea, this e-series was started, and we are now at the sixth edition. The first edition talked about the importance of early education in mother tongue, and we had some brilliant people talking about their experiences and why that's a great idea. That probably is the only way education can be delivered in the early years, at least, according to those people, according to our experts. And then we moved on to the beautiful idea of peer learning, how an organization in Telangana is using peer learning very effectively for something as complicated as math, which to many people, of course, seems an obstacle to finish their school education in the early years, at least. And then we moved on to a bunch of other areas. We discussed how Sanskrit teaching can be effective and how it can actually help in other areas of education as well. We talked about how physics education can be made more meaningful through the what who can be referred as the doyen of physics education in schools in India, Professor H.C. Verma, retired from IIT Kanpur. He shared his experiences along with a brilliant school teacher on the excellent work that she did as a school teacher. And finally, the last edition was about the Indian knowledge systems, where we had some brilliant people talking about their experiences, why it is important, and how it can actually be done in schools. We continue that entire idea, and now we present before you this amazing theme of gifted child. For the first time in India, in our documents we find the mention of gifted child. There are many normers and misnomers around this world, around on the idea of gifted child. And we thought it would be a great idea to sort of bring before you what the experts have to say on this topic. Gifted children are, by at least one definition, and Dr. Jyoti in today's webinar will, of course, delve deeper. But according to one definition, children who give evidence of high performance capability in areas such as intellectual, creative, artistic, leadership capacity, or specific academic fields, and who require services and activities not ordinarily provided by the school in order to fully develop such capabilities. Exploring the full potential of the gifted child is a long and difficult process and often requires the encouragement and understanding of parents as well as teachers. One of the most important persons in discovering and nurturing the gifted child is the teacher. They are among the first people to discover these hidden, often seemingly innocuous talents and qualities in children, and often prove to be the stepping stone to glory and greatness. It is the teachers who are able to inspire the belief and confidence in the child about his or her exceptional ability or gift. Our national education policy now also talks about it, as I mentioned earlier, and I quote, it says, there are innate talents in every student which must be discovered, nurtured, fostered, and developed. These talents may express themselves in the form of varying interests, dispositions, and capacities. Those students that show particularly strong interests and capacities in a given realm must be encouraged to pursue that realm beyond the general school curriculum. Teacher education should include methods for the recognition and fostering of such talents and interests. The NCERT and NCTE will develop guidelines for the education of gifted children. B.Ed programs may also allow a specialization in the education of a gifted child. So the NEP is quite clear on the importance that it wants to give. In fact, today every child is entitled to quality education at the elementary school level and beyond. And according to a report by the NIAS, the National Institute of Advanced Studies, on traits of gifted children in India, published in 2016, approximately 12.5 million Indian children between the ages of 3 to 18 years are likely to be gifted. Dr. Jyoti may have more to say on those figures. This is one figure that I could come up with based on my research. Before I hand over to our chief guest for today and introducing him, let me also tell you this is an amazing theme because one, it is very sensitive. These children may often be ignored because people may not realize what they're doing is because of their exceptional talent in a given field. So very sensitive in how these children must be dealt with and loved and cared for. But also, I think if our society learns to take care of them well, I think there are amazing possibilities that they offer for the development of the society, the country, and the world itself. One classic example that comes to my mind when I think of gifted children is Ramanujan. And if you read his biography, you realize the way he used to think was completely different from how any other mathematician would think. And I think it was this ability which probably gave him the strong edge and the amazing talent that he had. To talk more about it, let me introduce you to our chief guest for today, Professor V.S. Ramamurthy, who is also a Padma Bhushan awardee. Professor Ramamurthy is a well-known Indian nuclear scientist with a broad range of contributions from basic research to science administration. He started his career in Bhabha Atomic Research Center, Mumbai, and has made important research contribution in several areas such as nuclear fission, medium energy heavy ion reactions, statistical and thermodynamic properties of nuclei, and low energy accelerator applications. During the period 1995 to 2006, Professor Ramamurthy was fully involved in science promotion in India as Secretary to the Government of India in the Department of Science and Technology, New Delhi. DST happens to be right next, and Professor Ramamurthy, we are, at some point of time, we were neighbors. He was also the chairman of the International Atomic Energy Agency's Standing Advisory Group on Nuclear Applications for nearly a decade. He is currently an emeritus professor in the National Institute of Advanced Studies, Bangalore. In recognition of his services to the growth of science and technology in the country, Professor Ramamurthy was awarded the Padma Bhushan by the Government of India in 2005. He has nucleated a research program in NIAS to identify and nurture children with advanced learning capabilities continues to mentor the Gifted Child program in an NIAS. We are truly honored to have you, Professor Ramamurthy. A very warm welcome, and over to you for your remarks.
Thank you, Professor Nimeshji. Well, I must say that it's a rare opportunity for me to address a very large number of educationists in this particular area. How often one comes across children with outstanding capabilities far beyond those of peers in the same age group? One would think not very frequently, if not never. Not really true. One can confidently say that most of us have come across at some time or other children with demonstrated capabilities which would place them in the category of gifted. You mentioned him, but he was really an exception, but there are many others. The capability could be physical or mental or both. It's not necessary it should be only mental, but we discuss in the education sector the mental capabilities. Prodigies in music and arts are very well known. You know, they are always mentored by the seniors. Who has not heard of Mozart? Who has not heard of Kumar Gandharva, who started doing musical performance at the age of 5? So we have been seeing wizards of this kind at a very young age. Unfortunately, early identification of super achievers in STEM disciplines, technology, engineering, has not been very easy. Research is always incremental. One doesn't start with something which didn't exist. It takes years of study before one starts making original contributions in science, technology, and engineering. I quote Isaac Newton in this almost 400 years before. If I had seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants. So it's extremely important that if you want to make a mark in science, technology, engineering, you must also look at what others have done in that area, which again takes time. One mental capability that is easily discernible at a very early age is a memory capability, and sometimes arithmetical capabilities. Who doesn't know late Samudra Devi? It is said that she outperformed the fastest computers of her times and was often referred to as the human computer. The world recognized that she was a child prodigy. But did she realize her full potential? I'm not sure of that. Late in her life, at the age of 70, it is reported that she remarked that if only I had received the right mentoring at the right time, I could have evolved into a mathematician. She never imagined that she is a mathematician. She knows how to manipulate numbers, but that doesn't make mathematics. She knew it, but at the age of 70. And she said explicitly, I did not have mentoring at the right age. She was being made use of as a showpiece to go to various places, but never trained in mathematics. Even today, there are many young children with photographic memories. You look at Facebook or Google, you will see them. Some of them have arithmetical skills and other unusual mental capabilities. They usually hold public demonstration of their capabilities. You go to a college, university, somewhere and do it in TV nowadays, but in course of time, they simply disappear. You don't see them after a few years. While society looks at them with awe and curiosity, are we doing enough to bring out their full potential as educationists? Do they need special attention and nurturing which we are not providing? I think so. I think we are leaving them to their own fate. We don't really help them. Many countries across the world have structured identification and nurturing programs for gifted and talented children. It's not we are thinking about it for the first time. But these programs are neither uniform nor offer replicable model for other countries. For example, Our multilingual background is one of the things which you would not see in any other country. As was mentioned earlier, India has never had any structured gifted education program in the past. The largely rural, multilingual, multicultural population of India offers no scope for such a coordinated program. You can't have one program for the entire country. It's not possible, particularly if you are targeting young children. Don't forget that it was in 2009, more than 70 years after independence, that India passed the Right to Education Act. That means we are not able to deliver even normal education, leave alone gifted education. That's a challenge which this country has been facing. It is not surprising, therefore, that gifted education does not figure in our educational priorities. Let me say, did not figure in the educational priorities. As Professor Nomesh was mentioning, it finds a place in the new education policy for the first time after 70 years. While there are some schemes for children with learning disabilities, there are really very little for learning abilities. This is the ground reality. They are left to fend for themselves. Take care of yourself. Research on gifted education in India is relatively recent, as was mentioned. Almost 10 years before, an Indo-US workshop of gifted education was held in INSA, Delhi, where Jyoti was present, with support from the Office of Principal Scientific Advisor, Dr. Chidambaram. He was the one who supported the trust meeting. Based on the recommendations workshop, his office commissioned India's first national project on gifted education. For the first time in free India, a project was given. The mandate was very clear. Develop parameters, develop tools for the identification of gifted children aged between 3 to 15 years. How do you identify them? Just by somebody saying he is gifted doesn't make him gifted. The National Institute of Advanced Studies was the anchor of the project, with Delhi University and Agastya International Foundation as partners. So our partnership started almost 10 years before. Not all of us were doing the same thing. We also decided that NIAS will primarily focus on younger children, 3 to 8 years. So they cannot have a competitive examination. 3 to 8 years, it has to be by observation. Delhi University will focus on identifying gifted children from urban schools in the age group 8 to 12. They have diversified substantially now. Well, Agastya will focus on children in the same age group from the rural areas, villages. Now, Jyoti Sharma is going to be talking about what her team has been able to do in Delhi University during the last 10 years. So I will not spend much time on it. We will listen to her. I will take this opportunity to say a few words what NIAS and Agastya has been able to do in the last 10 years. One of the first mandates of NIAS was development and validation of identification tools. How do you say a child has a potential? A child at the age of 5 or 6 cannot sit for a competitive examination. You see, so written examination, the way in which we know it, cannot be the standard test for identifying children in the age group. So it has to be by observation. Observation by whom? Observation by the parents, observation by the teachers, observation by the students and the neighbors, everybody. In fact, one of the criticisms was, oh, every child will be gifted as per the parent. Not true. Parents are extremely sensitive whether their children are different or not. It is not that every parent thinks their children is the best in the world. No, they are very realistic. But we have to sensitize the parents. What are we looking at? We have to sensitize the teachers to observe, assess, and development tools for assessment. They won't sit for an examination, but you must have a charter of how to assess the children. The next mandate was to create network of mentors who will help the identified children. I will talk about mentorship a little later, but it clearly the observation and assessment has to be done by others, not by the children themselves. Okay, this is the thing. And some of the important outcomes of Riya's activities was gifted children prefer enable learning. They don't like being taught. They say, no, let me learn, but tell me, enable me how to learn. A gifted child before the age 10 has to be identified by observation. As I told you, what to observe, we have to decide. But no two children will have subject themselves to the same kind of observation. And last but not least, there are multiple stakeholders in gifted education. The parents have a role to play, the teachers have a role to play, the mentors have a role to play, and the society at large, the neighbors, neighborhood, everybody. I want to give one illustrative example, just to tell you the challenges which we face. We can't give the name as a child, so I will call him Rahul. Rahul is a very popular name now, right? Now, Rahul was one of the earliest children who came to NIAS and was identified as one with the potential as for giftedness. He was only 7 years old at that time. Okay? Now, interaction with the child and his parent resulted, you know what, moving him away from his school. His school cannot differentiate one child from the other. There are 40 children in the class, and the teacher says, I cannot give more time for one and leave the other 39. I will give only the same, nothing else. The teacher told us. So we told him, sorry, your child cannot flourish in this, move him away. We had to move him away to an IB school, which offers flexibility in that distance. IB is not Indian school. But with a heavy heart, I had to do that because in an Indian school, it will not be possible. Through a mentor-mentee workshop, there was a mentor-mentee workshop in NIAS. This boy attended that, and he came in touch with graduate and doctoral students of Indian Institute of Science, not teachers, more senior students of Indian Institute of Science. Over a period of 5 years, with close interaction with the student mentors and the other mentors, Rahul progressed well in mathematics, physics, chemistry, and biology. He progressed well. He also developed a deep interest in the field of environmental science. So he started, by the age of 10, he started getting nurtured by one of the faculty members in the Department of Environmental Science. In 2017, on the IISc Open Day, one professor offered him a fellowship in his group. He is still not out of the school. They offered him a fellowship in the school. He completed 2 years of summer internship with that professor when he was in grade 7 and grade 8. And he completed a project designing algal microcapsules for efficient carbon sequestration through photosynthesis. A boy in 8th standard. Project was displayed in the annual event organized by NIAS, and the paper was published in a journal, Young Scientist Journal. Right? Now the boy says, I want to work on a prototype of a device that can be attached to the vehicle to sequester carbon from the exhaust. Is it a problem? Carbon emission by cars, is it a problem? Yes, of course it is a problem. And he wants to attack that problem when he is in 9th standard. This is what mentoring was able to take him forward. Mentoring by NIAS, mentoring by his parents, mentoring by the students in IISc, mentoring by the faculty in the IISc. He is already able to reach where he couldn't have done. Suppose, imagine Rahul was only proficient in Kannada. After all, he is in Bengaluru. There is no guarantee he will be good in this. He couldn't have moved out of the standard educational system to IB or any other place. You would have killed him. Suppose Rahul's parents were not educated, or they were not financially sound. Poor had no alternative but to attend the municipal school. His CGT program was not there. Nobody would have told him what he could have done and opened up opportunities for him. So the entire program, entire environment brought out the giftedness in one child. This is just a classic to just bring to your notice. See, now, year 2020 has been a bad year for all of us, including us, right? Now, the gifted education program, the financial support for the program ended in 2015 from the office of PSA. Then the financial support was provided by the Tata Consultancy Services for next 3 years. Unfortunately, 2019 and beyond, there is no support for any agency for this program, right? So consequently, the entire program is in a limbo now. There used to be one website called prodigy.in. Anybody, whether it's a student, teacher, parent, or a public, can approach them. I see this boy, he gives some promise. Can we do something for him? So they can come to that and they will help. This thing does not exist now. It's in limbo now because there's no money. I really feel sad. Right now, my feeling sad may or may not make any difference, but I have an opportunity, thanks to Nimesh, to say it in public. I feel sad about it. In this country, there is no money for 5 lakhs, 5-6 lakhs to maintain such a may I help you center. Right? This is something which I would request Nimesh to take it up, do something about this. I'm glad that the National Education Policy 2020 has recognized for the first and nurture gifted children. And at this first time this happened, I'm very happy about it. Considering the lingual and cultural diversity of the country, this is not an easy task. You cannot take a model from elsewhere and implement it in India. It cannot be done. You have to maintain, you have to make your own scheme for reaching out our children. This our people are not realizing. They say, I will get that model from that country and then implement across the country. It cannot be done. Institutions, higher learning, like universities, IITs, and ISERs, they have a very strong role. As I mentioned in that typical case, it was the IIC faculty and students which brought up that boy, not the NIAS. NIAS made only the connections. It is the institution, IISc, which made that, and I don't see why other institutions, if every institution nurtured one gifted child per year, you would have done something great for this country. I hope this program will trigger you to do it, will bring in more people into it, understand the problems, and do it. And I'm very happy to have an opportunity to interact with you. Now I wait for Jyoti Sharma to tell us what she has been able to do in the last 10 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Professor Ramamurthy, for sharing these wonderful remarks. And indeed, it is sad if the program will have to permanently shut down. It will be a very sad day for us because of lack of funds. And as you pointed out, I will definitely do whatever I can to figure out how this situation can be made a little better. But thanks for pointing it out. I think it is very important that you brought it out. Your remarks made a lot of sense. And to elaborate on all of that and talk about her experience over the last 10 years, I now invite Professor Jyoti Sharma. Before that, I'd like to introduce her. She has done her master's in mathematics and PhD in mathematics education from the University of Delhi. She's an associate professor at the Cluster Innovation Center, University of Delhi. She's a practitioner and researcher in the field of gifted education. She's developed several indigenous tools to identify gifted children in Indian classrooms, as Professor Ramamurthy was talking about. She's among the early educators in giftedness who advocated the idea of identification as a continuous process and mentoring as an integral part of identification. She strongly promotes the need of reconceptualizing inclusive education by focusing on gifted students, as Professor Ramamurthy pointed out, doing something special, not just for those with disabilities, but also for those with abilities. Her areas of interest are mathematics curriculum, gifted education, and innovation and creativity and mathematics pedagogy. Professor Jyoti, over to you, please.
Thank you, Professor Namesh. Thank you Ramamurthy sir, for giving me opportunity. Am I audible? Yeah. Okay, fine. So I start with a very small anecdote. I remember my early years of my PhD. So it was actually February 2003. It was my Viva day, and after the Viva was over, so the examiners congratulated me and told me, okay, Jyoti, now you're Dr. Jyoti. It's an excellent piece of research work, but it will be just a showpiece in the library. My work was on mathematically gifted students, how to handle mathematically gifted students in regular classroom through differentiation. So they said it will be a good showpiece in the library, because in country like India, I don't think people have time to think about a gifted child. We are still struggling to meet our educational needs. So can you imagine somebody who is just finished the Viva getting this remarks from the examiner? It actually hit me hard. After few years, but okay, fine, I continued with my work, grassroots work with gifted students. So I was working in pure maths and shifted to math education just because of my love for these children. So in 2010 I got an opportunity, got a call from office of principal scientific advisor that there is a meeting on gifted students. So without knowing any background, one of my the supervisor, who was early promoter in gifted education, so I went with Professor Krishna Mehta. So both of us went there, and I thought that it will be something from the Ministry of HRE. But that meeting was chaired by Dr. Chidambaram, the PSSR, and Professor Ramamurthy introduced the question: can we identify another Ramanujan in the country? Why we are not able to identify Ramanujan even after 120 years? So again, it was the community of scientists, not the community of educationists. So the cause, the realization that yes, we are losing these children somewhere in the system. So this question was raised by those sensitive group of people who are actually experiencing this. And this is how the journey and my association with Professor Ramamurthy started. So we formally took up this national project on identifying gifted students, and the background sir has already given. I'll focus on some of the issues, the myths and issues on gifted education, on a gifted child. In between, I'll definitely talk about the kind of work we have done, and it is not just the work which is done at Delhi University. It is basically a spectrum of the work done all across the country. So I'm trying to compile everything in my presentation. So do I have permission to share my screen without wasting much time, because there is lots to talk about. Uh, so is my screen visible to all?
Yes. Yes.
Okay, thank you. So wait a minute. Yeah. So I start with certain claims. So I firmly believe that gifted students are a special population, and learning needs of these children are not effectively met in regular classrooms. I'll certify all these claims with evidence in the later slides. Gifted students are excluded from the mainstream education, and education provisions in the country are not designed to meet the learning needs of these children. So these are the claims, or you could say premises, on which my work is based. My presentation is based. It is not my work. It is basically a collective work of all the researchers and the scholars who contributed in this. So I'll share some of the case studies, and these case studies are the real examples of our Indian classrooms, which we gathered through our work of almost 8 to 9 years. So this was a child in grade 8. This child was never a high scorer in the class, but definitely an above average scorer. Used to do a lot of systematic mistakes in regular maths work, so never 100% kind of achiever, but always eager to learn more challenging things, always responded to high difficulty problems and used to get correct solutions. But if you ask, how did you solve it? She would never say. So she could not reconnect how she did it, but yes, she could respond instantly to the most challenging problems in maths, always eager to learn new challenging things. And presently she is pursuing a major in physics at Stanford University, and I think she has a good amount of scholarship also in that. This is again a case study, the case study 2. Yes, this is again only an above average scorer, basically balances studies with fun. So a lot of friends, and she used to enjoy all the classes and the picnics and the carnivals and other things. Any ordinary kid with no extraordinary learning behavior, if we talk about the rating of the teachers, but an urge to know more and more and do more challenging assignments, and very unusual and quick to response to high challenging problems. She was the topper, all India topper in CBSE 2016. Presently, she was, the last I knew, last year, she was pursuing dual degree in computer science and IIT Delhi. Okay. This is again an effortless achiever, shoulders responsibility to both teachers and fellow students, takes keen interest in his work, used to attend. This was the behavior of the child in the school, but there was another side which we collected from the parents. So the 7th grade child, he was attending science classes of grade 11 in a nearby coaching institute because he wanted a lot of stimulation and challenge. So he forced his parents to enroll him into a nearby coaching center where he could attend the physics and chemistry, because he wanted to know more and more in that. He used to love newspapers and any magazine which talks about science. So he shared his reading list with, and these were some of the books which he said, okay, I have glimpsed through all these books. Probably how much sense he could make with it, I'm not sure. But yes, he knew these books and he read some of the pages of these books. Presently, this boy is pursuing computer science from University of Toronto with a heavy scholarship. A very average child from the teacher's rating, highly introvert, does not, she didn't participate in any of the classroom activities, very few friends, and responded only when somebody asked her to respond in the class. So she was nowhere in the teacher's rating, and requested teachers to please nominate some of the gifted children if you feel there are. So, but she surprised everyone when she scored highest rank in science and maths Olympiad, I think in grade 8. And but her classmates knew that she can answer the most challenging problems, and she is a math wizard. Presently, this girl is doing medical from AIMS, MBBS from AIMS. This boy is again a very classic case study. He was not at all interested in going to school. So completes school task with no or less interest, did not want to go to school most of the time, persistently questioned the parents why I need to go to schools. And the school said, yes, this child shows the sign of depression and he needs counseling. But the other side was, he was in love with computer science, designed the website when he was in grade 6, not I think grade 5 or grade 6, enjoyed reading advanced book on nature of math when this boy came to us and the parents told us. So we shared some of those. For example, I gave him the book Mathematician's Apology by J.H. Hardy, and then I gave another book, Nature of Prime. So, and he enjoyed reading those books, and then after a week he would come again and give me some other books. So he worked on a problem on mathematical equivalence of Kepler's law of planetary motion, and he worked using differential equations. On that, presently he is pursuing major in astrophysics and computer science at University of Stanford. This is again a very amazing student. He was doing BTech at my center. Cluster Innovation Center, from a very, very humble background, a math wizard, knew more than the teachers, and he was popular than the teacher. Within first semester, he was popular than the math teachers, and his peer group, his classmates used to skip math classes, saying that Raghavendra will help us to understand. So, and you could see him teaching his peer group anywhere, in corridors, in the ground, in canteen. He pursued MS Mathematics from IISc Bangalore, and presently, the last I knew, I think last year, he had applied for PhD from Princeton. I don't know the current status of this board. So what is and there are many such case studies, so these children are from our Indian classes, these are the voices from our classrooms. So what is common in all of them? So they have potential to run extra mile. Their learning behaviors are unusual as compared to their average peer group, and they are aware that they have an unusual closeness to the subject. They struggle on their own to understand their problems and find the solutions. And we have seen in all the cases, the regular system is unprepared to meet their challenges. So such students demonstrate clues of their exceptional abilities in many, many exceptional ways. Within the group, they are a heterogeneous community. I specifically chose these examples because you could see, if we talk about their learning behavior, there is a lot of heterogeneity, there is a lot of differences, since our work was focused on math and science, so all my examples you could find from math and science, but definitely such children exist in all across the subject domains and non-academic fields also. The common underlying point is they have more appetite for knowledge. The simplest in the layman language, if I talk about. All such cases are known as children with high potential, or you could say learners with advanced learning abilities, or the least we can say gifted students. Why I'm saying gifted at the last? Because some of our own colleagues, they have problems that why you say them gifted, it is a very elite concept. So say whatever nomenclature you would like to give this community, but yes, they have advanced potentials which needs to be taken care. So definitely a gifted child has a synchronized cognitive development as compared to their chronological peer group. So, and that advancement can vary, but yes, definitely they are at much higher level as compared to their age group, So the four primitive things, if you could see, the one is they can think at microscopic level, they can question at microscopic level. They can join dots, unusual links, which probably a normal human being cannot think. They have an insight, and they questions a lot. So gifted exist in academic fields and in non-academic fields or area also. So this is basically a mass of hidden potential. So if we look at the statistics, so the statistics says in a normally distributed population, and human abilities are normally distributed, So in a normally distributed population, 13 to 15% children are potentially gifted children. So they have potential. 3 to 5% are significantly gifted students. Okay, you just by looking at their behaviors, their learning behaviors, their practices in the class, you can see, okay, this child is something different, or this child is really, really fast. And 0.1 to 1% are exceptionally gifted children, the category of Ramanujan. Okay, so if we go by so what are the common traits? So they learn faster, they process information more deeply, they require less repetition of practice, they have quick recall, they have a large memory base, and they can connect thread of knowledge together from different domains. Okay, but yes, this slide is very important, it is when we are talking about gifted children, so there are many myths and misconceptions on this. So very seriously we need to look at this slide, because there is a difference between a high achiever or a bright child and a gifted child. You know, a gifted child is interested in learning, but bright child is interested in learning, but a gifted child is curious in learning. Bright child answers the question, but gifted child can discuss the answer in detail or even the question in detail. Bright child knows the answer, but a gifted child may ask another question on your question. He is a or she is a top setter, and this child is beyond equal. Bright child is alert, but gifted child is observant. Bright child has good ideas, but a gifted child has unusual ideas. Bright child is a teacher pleasure, but gifted child speaks their own mind. These children speak their own mind, and we have seen that many times they are not liked by the teachers. The bright child understands the idea, and gifted child construct ideas. Bright child enjoys school, and gifted child enjoys learning. The bright child grasps the meaning, and a gifted child draws inferences. Bright child enjoys straightforward sequence of learning, and this child thrives for challenging problems. So getting good marks, being a top ranker is never their priority. So and in all the case studies which I highlighted here, the underline is that they wanted more and more challenge, more and more stimulation. Okay, so with this background, let us focus our understanding on gifted children in Indian context. So let's recall some of the facts. You know, we are the second populous country in the world. We are the nation with the most youth population, and the median age is 28 years and 4 months. We have approximately 400 million school-going children. And we have a wide demographic spread. So there is diversity, economic diversity, social diversity, cultural diversity, linguistic diversity, and educational diversity and educational opportunities. So officially we have 23 languages, and there are 840 dialects. So as Professor Nomesh told us, the mother tongue. So the language is equally important when we are talking about to identify and mentor a gifted child. Okay, so we celebrate the diversity of Indian population, and education is definitely one of the topmost priority in the for the nation. We are in the midst of education reforms. The new education policy is right here with a mention on gifted children. India has introduced, we have introduced the right to education in 2010, and now the education is free, compulsory, and the quality education now is the agenda. And we have achieved almost 100% enrollment in the age group of 6 to 14 years. But again, look at some other facts. We follow standard national curriculum that is diversified by different boards. So we have many boards, but standard national curriculum. And but this curriculum is not need-based curriculum. You know, it is not learner-centered curriculum. We follow standard scheme and schedule of assessment where the length of session is 1 academic year. If we go by the speed, a gifted child learns. So probably the child can learn the entire curriculum of 1 academic year in 2 months. So it is a question mark. So what the child is going to do for next 10 months? Okay, the national education policy clearly talks about the mandate to support gifted students. So I'm not focusing on that. So if we go by numbers, you know, the previous slide where we talked about the percentage of potentially gifted students, significantly and exceptionally gifted students. So approximately we have 52 million students who can be potentially gifted. 12 million significantly gifted, and approximately 4 million who can be exceptionally gifted. Okay, so look at the sheer number. You know, this is the human resource. I remember when I was in my schooling, I think in grade 8, the geography textbook there is a statement which says that humans are the most powerful natural resource of a country, So look at the number we are talking about, and we are wasting this talent or this potential. So we are wasting the most potential human resource of the country, So we do not have flexible promotion schemes. There is a huge gap between school education and university education, both in terms of quantity and quality. And there is a high imbalance in different kinds of schools, So we have elitist public schools, the government schools, and we do have schools, one teacher schools, it is equally important to critically analyze ourselves, so that we can talk about structural reforms. So we are struggling to balance between equality and excellence, and we do recognize children with special needs, but this category hardly locates children with higher academic needs. Hopefully, that this policy will be able to make an impact for them. And we do not have any policy document, even at a very basic level, that focus on the children with higher academic needs. So we do have inclusive policy in school education, but this policy does not talk about gifted students or cognitively advanced students or children with high academic needs. I'm always very cautious when I say gifted child, because I know there are people who say they don't believe gifted because all are gifted. We still believe in that philosophy. We do have legislative and academic supports for children with disability, but not for higher potentials. And majority of our education policies are irrigated to meet the needs of the challenging students, which does not include gifted. We do have some brilliant programs, for academically bright students. NTSA, Inspire, Kishore Vigyanik Protsahan Yojana, and Olympiads. These are brilliant programs, and it does take care. These programs do take care of many bright students. There is a severe shortage of qualified teachers and curriculum provisions. We did a study when we started the work. So initially, as Professor Navesh highlighted, that teachers are very critical. Teachers are the first human contact with the child, So when we started the project work in the field, so we did a survey study with 694 children, teachers, and it was found that 82% teachers accepted the presence of high ability learners in their classrooms. 94% teachers could not differentiate between a gifted child and a bright child. 97.8% teachers felt unprepared to meet the learning needs of such children. And the most used practices to engage such children in the classrooms were giving them extra tasks for more practice. So what do you do with them? So they say, okay, ma'am, we ask them to do more. So we have many reference books, so we give them some practice work. Or we ask them to help other students, make them, sometimes some of them said we make them group leader to supervise the work of other students, and some of them allow them to do their own work. So nowhere it is giving them that stimulation or challenge which they aspire for. So this is important, so our teachers are not prepared. So if we have a look at international status, gifted education is a very well recognized academic and research field. USA, UK, Russia, Canada, Australia, these are some of the countries which have very well structured policies and educational provisions for gifted students. These provisions are at national level, state levels, and at school level. The provisions are also at policy level and at implementation level. Rights of gifted students are protected under the law, and issues of educational provisions for gifted students are a matter of discussions, even the parliament, So if somebody wants to read a Nation at Risk 1983 USA, this report was debated in the Parliament of USA. Somebody wants to read. It's an eye-opening report, and you could realize that how much importance they gave on the education of of gifted children in their country. So there are curriculum provisions, there are trained teachers and gifted education specialists in schools, So there are gifted education centers and there are gifted education research centers in the universities. So with this background, I'll briefly talk about the national level project which we worked and we started in 2010. So as Ramamurthy sir told you, so these were the 3 locations: the Delhi, Bangalore, and Koppam. And the objectives, Professor Ramamurthy already mentioned, to develop comprehensive identification processes along with identification tools to identify gifted children in science and maths across different age groups, to develop detailed mentoring and nurturance mechanism for the identified group of children, and to develop identification and mentoring resources for future application. So the challenge with us was how to define or operationalize the term gifted, how to evolve criteria to identify these children, how to develop instruments, what should be the age range, and let us define the steps of identification and what can be the possible pathways for mentoring. So, and these were the targets. I'll just skip these slides. So, after an extensive field work and the review of available literature and practices all across the globe, we developed this definition that giftedness is untapped, inherent, heightened potential in one or more than one specific domain, which can be demonstrated as manifestation of learning behaviors only under favorable conditions. Every single word in this definition is important. And what are those favorable conditions? Acceptance. So first of all, we need to accept that these children exist among us. We need to acknowledge that they have potentials which can be flourished, which can be nurtured, and they should be allowed to think differently. And if we accept them, we acknowledge them, then we need to invest in them and we need to nurture them. So these are the 3 important favorable conditions: accept, acknowledge, and nurture. Okay, so what should be the age? We realize that catch them as young as possible because giftedness is developmental. It is not a fixed notion, If we will not nurture them, if we're not able to channelize their potential in a right way, slowly and gradually they will become underachievers. They will lose faith in themselves, and somehow over a period of time, either their potentials will sleep under the carpet, and many a times these children become problem children, such as delinquents, So we worked on a 4-quadrant model of giftedness. So where we did talk about, so there are generic cognitive constructs, creativity index, subject proximity, and the attitude attributes. So these 4-quadrant model was important. So advanced cognitive development. The constructs of giftedness is basically advanced cognitive development, creative dispositions, metacognitive connect, and heightened curiosity, in addition to strong determination. So these are the traits, constructs of giftedness. These are the signifiers. I am not talking about all these constructs and signifiers in detail, because unless we are actually going into field to practice or implement this, we can discuss as and when we'll do that. So the levels of giftedness, basically the potentially gifted child. So we talked about 4 levels, so the potentially gifted, significantly gifted, in addition to this, highly gifted and exceptionally gifted. So our model of identification was a layered model. We started with potential and trying to reach to the exceptional. Okay, And we believed that, and we worked out in a hard way. We realized that identification is a continuous, sorry, there was identification is a continuous process. Identification has to be multi-pronged. So it's not something you identify once and it remains always. So it is a continuous process, because there is no limit to the potential. We need to continuously explore how much this child can learn and expand the potentials to the abilities. Immediate context of the child should be at the center of identification. This is another important point to highlight here. So it was a 3-tier model. So the first was the referral phase, where the teachers, the parents, the peer group, and the child nominate. So it is through the nomination. And after that, we have the selection stage, where we have advanced level of screening. And the third is the scaffolding phase, where we do the baseline mentoring to these children. And then further, it can be the advanced mentoring. We didn't reach to the advanced mentoring. We limited up to scaffolding phase only. So, and identification and mentoring goes hand in hand. Identification and mentoring shall go hand in hand. Mentoring becomes the next advanced stage of identification. And the identification provides direction for mentoring. So and mentoring validates the identification results. So the first cycle of identification, we worked with 20,132 children. And this was the number basically. So this was the talent pool, the selection stage, and the scaffolding stage. So these case study, which I shared with you initially. So in this case study was from these 26 children, which we mentored at scaffolding stage in the early phase. And we developed this developmental identification and mentoring program, which we say DIMP. It is a comprehensive, in-depth, and multi-layered process based on both test and non-test criteria. It is coherent, inclusive, and child-centered, and mentoring is an important, essential part of it. It has a battery of identification tools to carry out. So this is basically the scheme of GIMP. So here is the general population. We move to the talent pool, then we move to the significantly gifted group, and then the bunch of highly gifted children. So we could reach till here. Yes, we did identify some. We believe that these children can reach to the exceptional level, but we could not do the one-to-one or advanced mentoring with them. So this is basically again the scheme with the instruments which we used. This identification process includes these many tools. Teachers nomination, teachers own assessment, peer nomination, the self nomination, attitude scales, and parents nominations. Then we have an identification matrix. So we put all the scores into this identification matrix. So that we have it has the check and balance. For example, the gifted child, the teachers, because this child is a problem child, it questions the teacher all the time. The child disrupts the class. He does not enjoy the class. He does not respond. He scores poor. He does a lot of mistakes. Teacher may not nominate. So we have peer nomination also. We have self nomination also. So there are check and balance, and this identification metric. So once you put all the scores in identification matrix, we get a collective index, and then we have this SMAT, Science and Maths Ability Test, which is a very interesting assessment tool through which we identify, we do this the selection, and then we have induction mentoring program at scaffolding level. So this is the blueprint. The next cycle was to validate whatever we did in our first phase. It was again taken up, done on 11,668 children. All these children were from grade 5 to grade 9. Okay. The second cycle was to validate the process. and to make the process more robust and well planned and flexible. So then what we did, how we the another validation part was, what we did is these identified group of students. So we actually uh, assessed actually these children on the intelligence test, WISC, Bachelor's Intelligence Test, WISC 4, and the SPM, the Standard Progressive Matrix, which are the standard and very, very popular intelligence tests. So 99.2% of our students scored the high gifted category of WISC 4, and scored above 95 IQ, which is the highest IQ category on SPM. The learning profiles, we also developed their learning profiles to study their learning behaviors qualitatively, and the impact of mentoring program was also studied. So we had a detailed discussion with mentors on each case. So this is how we validated what we identified. So these are some of the scales, So this is the teachers rating scale. Teachers are trained before they can implement the scale in the classroom. This is the peer nomination scale. So these are very interesting questions. For example, if your school has to select students for the Crown of Science Genius, a national-wide competition to select the most extraordinary child, who would you nominate from your class? And there are questions basically which can actually cross-validate the answers given in the previous questions. So this is the self-expression, so a kind of self-nomination, because we ask child to spend few minutes with the self and introspect how's your relation with maths, or how your relation with science. So this is the rating scale for the parents. The parents can nominate the scale. This is the attitude scale, the math and science attitude scale. These are the steps in identification. So basically a very, very elaborated process. Why it is elaborated? Because the first thing, it is a process, and we want to make it as inclusive as possible. So we don't want that any child is left out. So if a child is not able to come up in one criteria, so there are options to be identified in other set of criteria. So, and in the third cycle, we scaled it up. We tried to scale it up at the national level, because we are told that Delhi is not India. So we have a project monitoring and review committee, and so we were told that how can you scale it up at the national level. So we tried on more than 96,000 students, and the project locations were Guwahati, Vadodara, Kanpur, in Haryana, Jhajjar, and Rewari. So Ujjain also. So we had some success stories, and we have a lot of failure stories also. So the procedures of identifications were standardized. So we had mentoring programs, as I told you, that we had the induction mentoring program for them. So these students were mentored at Cluster Innovation Center, University of Delhi. Selected students were called at CIC for mentoring sessions. Need-based mentoring modules were designed by university teachers and research scholars, and students were observed and assessed for learning behaviors during the mentoring sessions. And the selected few were recommended for advanced mentoring. So we recommended for advanced mentoring, but we did not take up advanced mentoring at the university level. Fine. So our mentoring program was in small groups. There were weekend programs. There were block mentoring programs. There were summer and winter camps. Some of the mentoring programs were project centric, and there were focused learning materials. So we developed plenty of modules, and we started this interactive magazine called Madhyam. By the time we reviewed we compiled everything, we had more than, I think we have 33 or 34 editions of Madhyam. It was a monthly newsletter where we used to take one theme There were a lot of resources, there were questions, and students were asked to reply back to those questions. Then we were told to extend this further. Initially, we were working with from grade 5 to grade 9, but then we extended our work to the early primary years, also 7 to 9 years. And for 7 to 9 years, we developed hands-on activity kit on science exploration and hands-on activity kit on mathematical thinking. So again, the very primitive basic mathematical concepts and the science experiments where students were able to were asked to hypothesize, look and observe, make the statements, draw inferences, okay, quantify your observations. Similarly, in mathematics, the problem solving, the conceptualization, the examples, the non-examples. So the focus on mathematization and mathematical thinking. Then we were told to expand the work at the early years also. So we developed an activity kit for early childhood identification based on the cognitive developmental milestones. So the early years are the foundation years. The brain is at the fastest growth rate. So we developed this very interesting kit consisting of the set of activities, and the focus was on cognitive milestones with this kit consists of the set of activities, and there were 5 parameters: the time, accuracy, self-correction, number of scaffoldings, and motivation. I'm just skipping these slides faster because all this information is here, so we can take up in question answer session if somebody has questions on it. So this was the spread of the work. So we had, so you could see the identification, mentoring, teachers training, research development, tools development, guidance and counseling, parents awareness seminars, and the resource generation. So we have a gifted education resource room at Cluster Center, and teachers and others can visit and use those resources. So we have teachers training programs at various levels, starting from the basic sensitization workshop to the advanced courses. We worked with the NCRT, and there is a component has been included because NCRT runs a course called on guidance and counseling. So there is a specific module now on gifted education, gifted students, and how counselors can help gifted students. So as of now, we have a very rosy picture. Okay, fine. So gifted children are the brightest minds, so but there are many issues with these students. So since giftedness is a asynchronous development with advanced cognitive abilities, there are but other parameters. So if you look at the social development, moral development, emotional development, physical development, it is at the same peer level, same chronological age, but the cognitive development is much advanced. So you could see a imbalance between the two. These unique traits make them very vulnerable, and it requires modification in teaching, parenting, and counseling. So there are many myths around gifted children. So they are so bright, so they don't need any help. You can ask any teacher. The parents go to the PTMs, and teachers say, "Why are you worried, madam? Your child is doing so good." So they will manage everything, so they don't need any help. So they can manage all their issues on their own. They are highly mature, so they can deal with the stress. They can be engaged with other responsibilities to keep them busy, because as the teachers say, because they become para teachers or the assistant teachers for the teachers, and they shall be assigned responsibility to help weak students in the class. Okay, the coping in a societies that does not recognize, understand, welcome, or foster giftedness, they have unchallenged academic environment, which leads to boredom, frustration, and disruptive behavior. They lack goals, motivation, direction, and definitely role models. They feel pressure to live up to the expectations of parents, teachers, and other stakeholders, significant adults in their lives. Once you say, okay, your child is gifted, the parents come up, okay, can you please give us in writing? Can you issue a certificate on that? So can you imagine the level of expectation the parents build up on the teachers build up around these children? Generally, they are the fast runners, so uh, uh, they are it makes them low runner, so because the peer group is thinking at a different level and they are much faster. Their unconventional thinking make them subject to criticism or fun. They're unsatisfied when cognitive needs are not met, and they struggle to confine their urge for higher knowledge to be accepted by the peer group. And this has been seen very in many examples, because if they give very unusual answer, the parents, the peer group does not accept them. Sometimes they say, oh, you want to showcase something, or maybe they say you are foolish. I don't know, what do you think about? So many times they confine their urge to be accepted by the peer group. They are more prone to depression. Their emotional intensity is very high. They are very highly sensitive. They feel different from others, so sometimes they start questioning themselves. They are perfectionists. They feel social isolation many times, and their peer relations are not at very good terms. So they want the company of older peer when it comes to academic challenge, but they want to socialize with the same age group uh, uh, because their social development is at the same level. The inappropriate parenting, burden of expectations, and the personality conflict, these are some of the, and yes, there are dual exceptional behaviors also. So you'll find many gifted students who are dyslexic and gifted. Sorry. Okay, so basically what happens is, when we are handling the gifted child, if we do not handle them properly, so first of all there is an underachievement. The immediate or the lowest level is the underachievement, and the highest loss could be they can be delinquent, but ultimately it is the talent lost. So basically what happens is, what we need to do is, so here are the potentials. We need to convert these potentials into abilities, and so that these abilities can give us success stories in terms of achievement. So from potential to abilities to achievements. So how we can realize that, so what we need a pan-India model of giftedness. So pan-India methods and practices which are diversified, which are inclusive, and which believe in excellence. We need a robust and dedicated ecosystem for implementation, monitoring, and management at central level, state level, and institutional level. We need provisions at policy level. We need provisions at curriculum level. So there are curriculum enrichment, acceleration, compacting, differentiation, advanced mentoring. So we need these kind of curriculum provisions for them. We need institutional support. And when I'm saying institutional support, I'm not promoting the idea of exclusive schools or institutes for them. What I believe is, what I'm promoting is, asking is, synergy between existing systems. India has huge academic and physical infrastructure to support gifted students. We do not need to build up new structures. So, but yes, we can have a strong synergy between the existing systems. So the close coordination between schools and higher education institutes. We need to develop sound, robust, sustained, long-term mentoring support, close coordination between schools, okay, and the mentoring centers and pool of mentors from diverse expertise. Our motto should be catch them young. for the new education policy, the NEP 2020 talks about the foundation years, 3 to 8 years. Here we can talk about activity-based centers for advanced cognitive growth. Preparatory and middle years, 8 to 14 years, we can have subject-centric enrichment programs for them. And for secondary years, 14 to 18 years, we can have acceleration and compacting, the more serious programs. So we need an inclusive model of giftedness. So generally there are two kinds of thinking. So the lower order thinking skills are basically the information recalling, comprehension and application. Higher order thinking skills are analysis, evaluation and creation. Gifted children are high on this. They are high on higher order thinking skills. So generally the gifted children from disadvantaged backgrounds, they do not have that knowledge base, they do not have adequate information, knowledge, or the exposure of knowledge. So generally this can be taken care through intervention programs, because all gifted children are high on higher order thinking skills. So this can be the basis through intervention programs, and we can very well make an inclusive model where even the children with the disadvantaged background can be taken care. I can share one example, so we had a wide cross section. So we had children from the schools like Sanskriti and GPS and St. Columbus, and we have children from the municipal corporation schools, So, and when we were doing group mentoring, it was an inclusive group, small groups, but so it was children-centric group rather than school-centric group. And yes, there were children from the municipal corporation school. We were working on an experiment, how to generate electricity through water in a bowl. And this was the group who could do it the fastest and with perfect accuracy, So just a small intervention program, giving them the basic information, what we are talking about, and then they can pick it up. So that cannot be a problem, because people say how you are going to have, how you can have an inclusive model where you can talk about children from disadvantaged setup and children from the elitist groups who have the widest exposure. So it can be very well taken care. We have experienced this. To achieve the vision of Atmanirbhar Bharat, what we need to create a leader. We need to create a cohort of gifted youth who can take leadership in scientific endeavors, social entrepreneurships, economic reforms, innovations and practices, population management, resource generation, and definitely social engineering. So ultimately, and there can be many more such domains. So the youth who can respond to the unique problems of India in the most unique ways. So, but we need to be cautious, because this is one area which can be commercialized very easily. So we need to be very cautious, no to commercialization, no to misguided information, and no to exclusion. We need to exemplify existing knowledge base in Indian context. We need to create gifted youth tank who are Indian in intellect, thought, and experience and values. We are at the midst of the strong education reforms in the country. We have NEP 2020. We are talking about the foundations of early childhood education at warfoot level. So we can actually think about gifted education program from the foundation till the highest level at this time. And we can start as early as during the foundation years, and then it can be taken up at the senior secondary grades, and where we can have collaboration with the existing institutes like IITs and IIS and other research institutes. So we must realize that being gifted is a challenge. It is not a celebration, not just a celebration, because it's a big challenge. It is not an elitist idea. It is a reality. Realizing giftedness gifts comes with a heavy responsibility. So let us share this responsibility collectively, patiently, and passionately. So we must we must need to make a balance between equality and excellence. So focus on accept, acknowledge, and nurture. And this is a humble urge at this platform, where we have very wide audience, that this is a silent community. It is important that when we are talking about inclusion, we do not miss these children. Education is an investment for future, and I promise you, these children can be the best education the country affords to. Thank you so much.
Thank you, ma'am, for such a valuable data-enriched session. I would now like to invite you again with Dr. Meenakshi Gupta, Shri A.N. Ramachandraji, and Shri Vinayak Ghatataji for a panel discussion. I would also like to invite Professor Numesh Bolia for moderating the discussion. Professor Bolia, over to you.
Okay, thank you, Ruchika, and thank you so much, Jyotiji. This was absolutely wonderful and comprehensive. You touched upon almost all aspects of gifted education that at least I could think about, from identification to how to address it, to how it can be institutionalized, and then finally, and I think very importantly, just a wide appeal on this platform for people to empathize and to do whatever they can for this extremely sensitive and important segment of our population. Thank you so much. This was absolutely wonderful. Uh, Gifted children truly are very special gifts for humanity. While bright children can learn everything that they are taught, gifted children think fundamentally differently and have the potential to offer to the world what probably nobody else can. Right? And you talked about Atmanirbhar Bharat, Jyotiji. I completely agree. I think given the fact that India is so diverse, right, in terms of geography, in terms of history, in terms of everything, right, we're just so big in terms of everything, that solving some of our problems and realizing our potentials would really need people who can think differently, right? Just being able to think rigorously in terms of existing frameworks is not going to take us where we want to. And I think our gifted children, provided we handle them with care and with a lot of love, I think they can be very important flag bearers of our movement towards Atmanirbhar Bharat, and of course our overall development. So I would now like to introduce everyone to our panelists. What we thought is, after this session that lays out a comprehensive canvas of gifted education, let us bring forth a panel which brings its experience from various domains. So we have with you a teacher who has, in fact, a principal of a school who has done special arrangements for gifted children, and she will talk about her experiences. I'll of course introduce all of them in detail. We also have an education administrator who tried to do something with respect to gifted education in a much larger set of schools, which is the Navodaya schools. We also have with you very beautifully and wonderfully a parent. Jyotiji talked about how it is not just a celebration, but also quite a bit of a challenge. So you can hear from our parent today what the celebration is and what the challenges are. So to begin with, I invite Dr. Meenakshi Gupta. She has done her PhD in education and MPhil in English language and MA in English literature and BA honors from Delhi University. She is a distinguished and innovative school leader with 27 years of experience in education across various schools, and committed to providing empowering leadership through student-centric policies and pedagogy. And I'm sure it is because of this trait of her that she was able to appreciate the whole plan of gifted education. She's also the principal of SD Public School in Delhi. This is a school in East Patel Nagar. I've been fortunate to pass through that school. Now I remember, Meenakshi ji, I was passing through a fairly different and interesting school. I didn't realize it then. Dr. Gupta is also an executive member at the National Progressive Schools Conference, a member at Executive Council for Global Inclusive Education Network, and a member at the Women in Social Leadership Program, Ministry of Education, Victoria, Australia. She is also a panelist in the Cluster Innovation Center at the University of Delhi and has conducted numerous workshops for parents and teachers in the area of gifted children. She has been awarded the Guru Drona Award by SRM University, the Paryavaran Dronacharya Award by Indian Center for Wildlife and Environmental Studies in the South Asian region, Appreciation Award by Confederation of UNESCO Clubs and Associations of India, and the Award for Contribution to Social Service by Care Promise Welfare Society. We also have on the panel Shri A.N. Ramachandra. Shri Ramachandra is a senior consultant and retired joint commissioner of Navodaya Vidyalaya Samiti. Welcome, Ramachandra ji. Good to see you again. Um, he has worked in leadership role in Navodaya, having 638 residential schools across the country with full scholarship to 2.7 lakh talented children by the Government of India. He himself has done his education from the University of Mysuru, University of Bengaluru, and Delhi University. He has worked in the area of school education and teacher training extensively for over 37 years. He's deeply involved in leading ICT in education, school curriculum development, support for gifted children, textbook writing committee of NCERT for ICT in schools. He has worked extensively for science promotion, schools, and collaboration with scientific research institutes. He's also worked for long in areas of competency-based learning, training, and development in school system and art and education in schools. He's associated with several voluntary initiatives in the youth development and training in India. And finally, we also have on our panel a parent, Shri Vinayak Gatate. Welcome, Vinayak ji. Good to see you again. He is a parent to a very special boy, Shivain Ghatate. He's a development professional, works at the World Bank. He has worked himself in 8 countries in South Asia and East Africa. Quite a remarkable experience. Mr. Vinayak is a parent of Shivain, who is currently a student at the British School, New Delhi. And prior to that, he was in the step-by-step school, Noida. Shivain, I wish I am able to meet him someday, Vinayji. He loves playing chess and origami and loves talking about space at such a young age. He's a very curious child and loves to learn and gain knowledge. And finally, of course, we've already introduced Professor Jyoti Sharma. We thought of this panel to give you diverse views on not just what gifted education is, which Jyoti ji beautifully elucidated, but also bring before you experiences from multiple perspectives, right? So that it is also clear, gives ideas to the audience, not just that gifted education is very important and needs to be handled, especially with a lot of resources, but also the how part, right? So we have the why and the what, of course, but the how is equally important. Otherwise, this only becomes a platform in talking big and not realizing anything. So to begin with that, the way in which we will do this panel is I will invite each of the panelists to present their remarks initially for about 10 to 12 minutes. And I do request you to please stick to your time so that the others also are able to share their thoughts and experiences. And then based on that, we will have some questions. I might have some questions, plus there might be some questions on YouTube. We will request Professor Ramamurthy also to ask any questions if he might have. And with that, after that, I'll request Jyoti ji to also summarize everything in terms of what has been discussed in the panel. So to begin with, Meenakshi ji, I would like you to talk about your experience, a sort of ground up view on how gifted education was done in your school.
Good evening, everyone. First of all, thank you, Professor Nomesh and Dr. Jyoti, for inviting me on such a beautiful discussion. And I think this is much needed for each and every one, not only for the educators, but for everyone in the country, those who have children and those who are teachers. And in any ways, anybody who is related to the field of education. Because in my 27 years of teaching experience, I found that we have worked a lot about the underachievers. We have worked a lot about the physically challenged children. We have done a lot about when we talk about the inclusion after RTE in 2010, we are doing a lot about the DG category children, but nobody had ever thought about these children. They were always like the stepchildren, who were, as Jyoti ji very rightly said, that they were used by the teachers to handle the class, or to be given some, they were like the hungry teddy. Something had to be fed to them so that they can sit quietly in the class and don't disturb the others. So basically, for every teacher, these gifted children were considered as the disturbing elements, rather than being somebody, a group of children who need to be nurtured and who are the real human resources for the country. And it is I don't know, I have no words to say that, but yes, now it is said that it is never too late. So when we are with the advent of this new education policy, and when this the special emphasis has been given about the gifted children, especially as an educator, I am really very, very happy for that. And I think the contribution for that, the credit for that goes to educationists like Dr. Jyoti and Professor Ramamurthy, that they have thought about this and they have tried to do something for these children. Here, I would just like to share my experience as a school leader when this project came to me, because we are connected, myself and Dr. Jyoti are connected for a long time as educators, as friends. So when this proposal came to me that there is such kind of a project where the CIC people are now going to use, they are going to work with these exceptionally gifted children. So it was, I accepted it with the open thought. Let me just find out the think tank, or you can say the children who are in my school, if I could those gifted ones, because I knew that every time many of the teachers used to come to me with these kind of complaints, I was trying on my own way as a pedagogical leader, as a pedagogical leader. I was trying to somehow manage with the differential kind of teaching, learning in the class, but I knew that this is not going to give much desired results. So when this proposal came to us in 2015, I was very happy, and I would just like to share over here that this really changed the lives of many of my children who were a part of it. And beyond anything else, the only thing that really touched me about this project was that when these children used to come to me to give me the feedback after these mentoring workshops and after their visits to CIC and all that, the joy, the happiness, the smile, that on their face when they used to come with the enthusiasm to tell me in my room, running into my room and telling, ma'am, we did this over there, ma'am, when are we going to go back again? So that really made me feel proud that yes, as a teacher, as an educator, I am able to give that joy of learning to my children. So that was the crux of the entire thing, though I was not that much aware about what kind of the details of the project and all that. But the only thing that I was convinced was that my children will love do something which they love to do. And of course, nurturing them was something that we all wanted to do that. And I'm very proud to see these children doing so well in their life now. I would here like to just share a PPT where I have just tried to, I'll just try to tell you that how this entire thing happened. And then I will tell you my, experiences with them. So just give me a time, I'll share this presentation with you. Is my screen visible? Yeah.
Ma'am, we can see gray screen, not your.
Thank you so much. Yeah. So that was the project that we have. This is my school building, SG Public School, and this was.
Sorry to interrupt, but we are not able to see your presentation. We can just see a gray screen.
I'll try it again, once again.
Yes.
Now, is my screen visible?
No, ma'am, not yet.
Don't know what has happened to it.
Yes, ma'am. If you can
is
just.
Is it visible now?
Yes.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So, is it visible now?
No, ma'am. I think there's a. Can we share it from our side?
Yeah, that will be great.
We can see this screen, but not in the full screen mode.
Okay, you can share it. I'll stop
this is being shared by our team.
Now we can see.
Yeah.
Yes.
So yeah, this is being shared by our team, Meenakshi ji. If you could just follow through this.
No problem. So this is my school building at the back, And we started this project with no idea, honestly speaking, that how the things are going to be done, and what exactly are our children going to get out of it. But the only thing was that there was something new that was going to be done for the children for whom we have not done anything till now. So that was the concept with which we started. Can we have the next slide, please? Ruchika, can we have the next slide, please? Yeah. So when we started this project, we had in our mind that these gifted students, as we all know, that these are two pillars for a student life. One is the teacher and one is the parent. So my job as a school leader was to see that these children who are going to be a part of this project, that how I have to, make these teachers and parents come in the loop of this project and make them understand. Because as Jyoti ji has very well said, that it is not an easy thing for the teachers to understand, because it is gifted education is not a part of their teacher training, and they are not trained. Though there are a lot of teachers who really want to put a lot of effort, but it is, even then, it is not a part of their training, and they are not able to even identify that these are the gifted children. So how I have to bring these teachers and then the parents, because it was very important to make a parent understand that your child is a little different, in the sense that the child thinks out of the box. Many parents would come to me with a complaint that my child doesn't work. मैंने अपने बच्चे को पढ़ते नहीं देखा, but when the result come, the child is getting good marks. So the complaint that the parent had was that my child is not interested in studying and he is busy doing something else, But then I used to ask how the child has scored. Is he not scoring well? They used to, no, score is not a big issue. I don't know what miracle happens. He gets marks, but the thing is that he's not interested. So that boredom with the usual things that a child had, how to go about it. And so that was one of the aspects that I worked on. For that, of course, the faculty of the CIC who came, they took a lot of training sessions, they took a lot of workshops with my teachers, with the parents as well, and of course with the students. And then there was a kind of a screening that was being done. Can I have the next slide, please? Yeah, so that was a phase one of the screening, when the project basically was focused on the we had for classes 6 to 8. That was the group of the student on which this worked. And then there were a lot of workshops, there were a lot of interactive sessions with the teachers, with the students, and of course with the parents, which we also conducted as school, and which CIC faculty also conducted with them. And then there were a lot of activities which were done by the CIC people when they were coming to the school with the teachers. And then there were questionnaires, and then there were all those tools which you all know, that there were different kind of questionnaires, different kind of screening thing that was done. And 25 students from all that thing were shortlisted for mentoring. And then they were called at CIC for the mentoring project, and where they used to go in their summer breaks, in their winter breaks, in their Sundays, off days, and many times after the school. Can I have the next slide? Ruchika, can I have the next slide, please?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah. So this was how the mentoring was done at CIC. They were basically, it was during the summer break. So the problem that I faced was that initially the parents were not that happy to send their children during the vacations, because they had their own engagements, they had to go to their village, they had their own kind of plans for their holidays and all that. So we had to somehow convince them that this is for your own child, this is something that your child is going to really enjoy. And then I made them, few of them, make them understand that just go over there, let the child enjoy. If the child doesn't like, then you. And gradually, after one class, or maybe after one day, I used to get phone calls, I used to get messages from the parents that, madam, we are ready to send, even if the teacher is not available, we will take our children over there, because our child has really enjoyed. And the children themselves were after the life of their parents, that we just want to go over there, because that was something they were getting which they were not getting in the class. So this is what they wanted. They were fed with what kind of challenges, with the kind of activities, with the kind of projects they did. I am not a science and maths person. I was not able to understand properly what exactly they are doing. But even then, I could make out that they are doing something which is of their interest and which is something they are going to, enjoy doing. That was the best part of it, that children really enjoyed. And these were small kids, and all the children were from classes 6 and 7. All these, children who were shortlisted, they all were from classes 6 to 7. Hardly there was one student, two or three students from class 8. So that was a group of students who enjoyed, and I would like to share that all of them have done so well. Now the class 6 batch has just passed out this year from our school, and they still love, they have those loving memory of CIC, and they even come, now they come and ask me, ma'am, can't we go again over there? So every time whenever we had an interaction, they used to ask me, ma'am, can't we again go to the university? Because they were not very aware about CIC. For them, it was a visit to the university, visit to a place where they were given that much of freedom to do what they wanted and to get, what they, wanted to do, something which was beyond their, syllabus and classroom. So that was the joy that these children had. Can I have the next slide, please? So after that, the second, phase, I do not know how it worked with those people, but for us, it was like a kind of a second phase of screening where 9 students were shortlisted, and they used to get regular magazines where they used to fill up the questionnaire. There were quizzes, there were questionnaires, and they were after the life of the teacher. I still remember one of my teacher who was given the charge of this project initially to take care of the children and to take them, because being a school, we couldn't ask the children to move on their own, because that they are our responsibility. Once they are in the school, it is the duty of the school to take the children out and bring them back to the school. So I had given this task to one of my maths teacher, and she used to tell me, ma'am, I am really sick and tired of these children. Wherever, in whichever class I go to teach, these children are after my life with their magazine in their hand. Ma'am, please send it in time, otherwise we will not be called. So that was the craze these children had to do, because they were getting something to do. Basically, that was not a monotonous thing from their textbook. And so these children regularly visited CIC, and they did a lot of projects. And the impact of these projects that I could see as a principal of the school was that they came up with the beautiful, wonderful, out of the box ideas for the school exhibitions, for the science exhibitions. They made wonderful models. They even a small child of class 6, 7, 8 came up with those out of the box things which even the senior the teachers who used to prepare the children of the senior classes, like my physics teacher who worked for some time with them, because initially the teacher who joined this project had to go for maternity leave. So I told my physics teacher to take care of it, and then she was wondered. She said, these children are coming up with such ideas which even my class 11 and 12 children are working on. So that was the beauty of the entire project. And they came up with such science projects, and they told me we made a robot. And that time robotics was not in thing in the schools, because now it has become kind of a fancy thing for all the schools to have a robotic club. But at that time it was not that in fashion. And these children had come with the idea that we want to make a robot. We know how it works, we can create that. And I used to wonder how these children will do when they will go to the senior classes. They are doing it so much in the middle level. So this was the beauty of this entire project. Can I have the next slide, please? Can I have the next slide, please, Ruchika? Yeah. So these were some of the topics which these children did at CIC. That was latest innovations. These are the things which they used to come and discuss with me. What were the latest innovations? They were all updated with that, and they would come in the morning assembly. They will come up with a beautiful, piece of information, because we have class assemblies in our school. So whenever it was the turn of their assemblies, they will come up with something different. They were talking about robotics, they're talking about GeoGebra, and they used to do a lot of new experiments, and they would go to the labs because they had an access to the labs. Otherwise, middle students do not have an access to the senior labs, but they had taken a special permission. They used to go to the teachers, and they used to do some physics lab specifically, because that is the safe lab. We couldn't allow them for the chemistry and other labs. So they used to go to the physics lab, and they used to do so much of new things, giving their help in the arranging the exhibitions, school exhibitions, where they could come up with the beautiful innovative ideas of various models that they have made. And so these kind of things were done with them at CIC, which really make them to grow and also to sharpen their skills. And it was not something which was informative, as Dr. Jyoti has just said, that it was not a pure just imparting the information to the children. It was a kind of you can say learning by doing, so it was what new education policy is talking about, hands-on activities and experiential learning. All those things, I think my children had started doing it 5 years back, with the help of the wonderful environment given to them at CIC. Can I have the next slide, please? So that was the kind of things they did, and then they had come up with the beautiful these are some of the things which I would quickly like to share with you, that they at the age of in class 6, 7th, 8th, they knew about these things, and they used all these like breadboard, different can we quickly see show all the slides? Next one, can we have? They used and they discussed these things with the teachers in the class, and they come up with the they knew about all these things. I think in class 6, 7th, 8th, it is difficult for the children, and these are the set of children who had been at CIC. And you can see this boy Premveer, he has got into IIT this year only, passed out class 12 school. So these are the kind of things, these are the kind of experiments and the learning, the outcome these children have from the various activities over there. Can I have the next slide, please? Yes, so this is what they learned, and all these children now have passed out from my school, who were the part of this entire project. The last batch passed out this year, the children who were in class 6. Can I have the next slide, please? So I would just like to talk about the impact, because that was a technical part. All those who are aware about it must be knowing very well that how it is a little at a higher stage for the children of middle classes to talk about these things. So when I talk about the impact of these children, it had a multifaceted impact on them. The first one was on their academic. Their academic performance had been always, they had been the top 2 to 3 rankers, all of them in the class throughout the time they had been in the school. And they had been selected. 2 of them are in IIT. One is in IIT Delhi. One has been into IIT Jammu this year only, and one is in VIT. One is doing physics honors from Delhi University. One is doing CA, and 2 are doing BCom honors from Delhi University. And 2 of the children have changed their you can say the stream. In class 11, they went for the humanities, and they are doing BJMS because they were more interested for the mass communication thing. So it is a kind of a sense of achievement when I see that these children really got interested into what they wanted to do, and they did well. And when we talk about, it was not only the academic thing, but it really impacted a lot on their overall personality. So when we talk about the co-curricular activities, all these children initially, when they came to class 6, because there's a huge transition from the primary to the middle. In primary, a child is a pampered one. Till primary, till class 5, a child is a pampered one. He's a teacher's pet and all that. The moment the child comes to class 6, there's a lot of change that comes. The child enters into the adolescent, as well as there's a lot of responsibility, and there's a subject-wise pressure, academic pressure that comes on the child at that time. So many of time we have seen that these children, either they become academically very strong and they leave aside rest of the things, or they simply get disinterested in doing the things because that doesn't interest them, and they just somehow manage with pass percentage. But the impact on these children was that they really became all-rounder. All these children, all of these, I would say all 25 children, not only 9 children, but rather all 25 children, they were active participants in all the school activities, whether it was an inter-school competition or it was an intra-school activities, they were always found on the stage. So what happens at the end of a year or maybe 2 years, they all became a known face to me, because with the children, more than 2,500 children in the school, it is very difficult for principal to recognize each and every child, what the child is doing, in which class the child is. We recognize them by face, but knowing about each and every child is when the child is really outshining in every field. So most of the time these children were on the stage, winning competitions, going outside. They become very good communicator, they become very good, they developed wonderful leadership skills, and all of them became office bearers, school appointees when they came to class 11. They were the part of the school council, student council, because of the kind of confidence and because of the kind of the impact it had on their personality. And of course, behavior wise, you would be wondering that this child Premveer I was just talking about, he has just passed out this year from our school, and he's the topper of the school. And he was a very introvert child, but I would like to say that he is such a good voiceover artist. For the last 2 years, he is giving his voice to my annual day function. So he's excelling he's a science student, he's a science topper, but along with that, he's such a voiceover artist. And I didn't know, whenever I used to talk to him, he's a silent child, he's an introvert child, but even then he had that potential, which he really, nurtured. And another student who had been in VIT is a very good theater artist. He has done wonderfully theater work on the school stage. Another student of my school who is among these children is, wonderfully, exceptionally aesthetic sense she has, and she designs all these stage and all these costumes for the annual days and all that. So this is what exactly the kind of impact these kind of activities that these children did and the program that they had on them. And I'm so happy and lucky and privileged that Dr. Jyoti took us, gave this opportunity to our children to nurture. And as it is very well said by Dr. Abdul Kalam, learning gives up creativity, and creativity leads to thinking, and thinking provides knowledge, and knowledge makes you. So I think this is what the children have learned at CIC with the help of this wonderful project which they had been a part of. For them it was fun. We as educators knew that how they are going to do, what they are going to do, but for them it was a wonderful opportunity to learn in a very playway manner, in a very beautiful kind of an environment where they used to go. There were mentors, they used to talk to them, they used to give them they were provided with the laptops, and they used to create programs, they used to create robotic program, they used to create wonderful innovative things. It was a kind of a dream come true for them. So I would sincerely thank all those people who are behind this project, because I know Dr. Jyoti only, and so many thanks from behalf of all the parents and on behalf of all the students. Thank you. You can stop sharing this. Along with that, I would just like to share a few things which are really needed. This is what I gave you a brief report about how we did this project in our school. But there are some issues which we as educators face when we talk about the gifted children. So that also here I would like to throw light on those issues. The first thing is the identification, as very well said by Dr. Jyoti also, that training the teachers to identify these children is a Herculean task. So that is something which really we need to work on. And from this platform, I would urge as an educator, as a school principal, to all the concerned officials that in our it is wonderful that we have got it in the education policy as an important aspect of education, but we need to create a preparedness for that. Otherwise there will be no point, unless and until we are able to create that preparedness, and that preparedness comes only through the teacher training. It is the teacher who is going to identify these children, and that too at a very primitive age. When a child is coming to the class and child is asking those out of the box questions where the teacher doesn't have answer and the teacher doesn't know how to handle that. So that tool, that competency, that ability to handle these children has to be developed among the teachers. And for that, we need to work a lot on the teacher training modules. And it is not only the new teachers who are coming, rather it is more important for those teachers are already there. So a lot of emphasis, though the new education is policy is talking about a fixed number of hours, compulsory hours for the in-service training, but I think that has to be a ground reality, and that is something that we have to work specifically on. And then the second important the thing, or I can say the main aspect that we have to work on, and I really had to work on, was to make the parents aware about these things. Because for every parent, the child is a brilliant child. No parent would say that my child is an underachiever or my child is an average child. When a parent comes in my room and he says, "Madam, mera bacha is very bright. The only thing is he's not able to perform in the exam." So we have to make it very, very clear in the minds of the parents that even if a child is not performing well in the exam, there is something that a child, as we say that every child has something special. Every child is special. So what is that special that we have to talk about? And here this mentoring and this giftedness, as Dr. Jyoti has very aptly said, it is not only for science and maths. There are lots and lots of fields in this. I know there are a lot of beautiful singers in my school, and I know one of the case where the best dancer of my school, the parents are not willing to take her dancing as a career, where she's a national level dancer. So this kind of the concept, or you can say the thought process that is going on in our country or in our society, that education is associated only with the earning money. Education is associated with vocation. So that thing has to be somehow handled. I do not know, it's a very tedious job, but somehow from somewhere we have to start working on that, because education is something different. Education should not be just to get a degree or a certificate. Education should be to broaden the horizon of a child. Education should be to make him a good human being, a sensible human being, to make to make a person understand what is right, what is wrong. It is not just getting a degree and then running around from post to pillar to get a good job to earn money. So that I would say that when we talk about gifted children are not only in the field of maths and science. Of course, we need to have more Ramanujams in our country. We need to have more scientists in our country. But along with that, we need to nurture whatever is the potential of a child. We many times we ignore that, and this is what happens. As it is very clearly said that this giftedness is developmental. So once the child comes to the class and the child doesn't get that recognition, that identification is not done of the child, and the child is just snubbed. Many times I have seen that the child who asks a question which is out of the box and the teacher doesn't have an answer for that, the child would say, "Okay, you sit down, I will talk to you later." So And then there would, at many times, I still remember one of the student who used to come, the teacher used to come every second day in my room with that child. And I used to say, what is the problem? He disturbs the class a lot. And I used to say, how does he disturb? He makes sounds, he doesn't let you teach. Ma'am, every time when I'm teaching, he's standing with one or the other absurd question which has nothing to do with the subject. And then I counsel the child, I counsel the teacher, and I knew it is not the problem with the child. The problem is with that the child knows, and then the best part is the teacher would say, he goes to the coaching, he learns everything in advance, and so he disturbs the class. So, this concept has to be worked on. That these are the practical problems I'm talking about. As a school leader, I know that these are the practical problems which are going on in almost all the classrooms. Even in the junior classes, if you go, you will find number of students who want to do something. Coloring doesn't, you give a sun to color, and if he will be coloring it with the blue, the teacher will say, don't you know sun is of which color? Let the child do whatever the child wants to, and then ask, why did you put blue color in that? You are not giving the child the any chance to say what the child is saying. So let us not just fix those kind of compartments for the children to learn, and we need to give that exposure, give them that, and I personally believe that when we talk about a gifted child, of course these gifted child are inherent, they have that inherent quality of that giftedness. They are very sharp, they are able to think out of the box, they have their own ideas. But the problem is that in our system, anybody who thinks out of the box is called crazy. So let us start accepting that craziness. First of all, we as adults, we as educators need to accept that craziness as something which can be channeled and which can be utilized for the betterment rather than just snubbing them. So that was one point I wanted to make. And the second thing that I wanted to make was that it is very, very essential on the part of the parents to understand that giftedness cannot be, something like a medicine which can be given to any child and your child will become gifted. So that we have to accept the reality. We need to accept the reality that my child is a bright child, as Dr. Jyoti has very clearly classified that who is a bright child and who is a gifted child. My child is a bright child and my child is a gifted child. Now, there are two cases here I can find. One is the parent are not ready to accept that the child is a gifted child, because gifted in the sense they think that the child is not concerned about the studies. He's very careless. Second thing is that a parent would come and would say, my child is a gifted child. He is scoring 98%, 99%. How can you say that my child is not a gifted child? And this is what I experienced. When a set of students were screened and they were shortlisted and they started going for these, there were other parents who used to come to me with the query and with a complaint. Ma'am, teacher was biased. She has not given my child's name. And I used to say, sir, this is not the teacher who has recommended. This was how the child was, identified and screened and all that. And they said, ma'am, the day the paper was there, my child was not well. So they are not ready to accept the fact that whatever the school system, whatever the teacher is doing, that is for the benefit of their child. So I think maybe because of the different government policies and because of the different, I don't want to be a political, give a political statement over here. But the thing is that there is a kind of, that mistrust that has been developed between the school and the parents. For the last few years only, because I remember when we were in the school, it was like a Guru Shishya Parampara, and the parents used to have complete trust on the teacher. Whatever the teacher is doing, whatever the school is doing, that is for the best. But now that trust is somehow breached. And we all know the reasons behind that. So that trust parents also have to develop, that whatever the teacher is doing, how the teacher is handling their child, it is for the best of their child. Of course, there are exceptions, I would not say about it, but if properly trained to handle these gifted children, every school is well equipped to meet the challenges of these children, because even if you talk about the infrastructure of the school, you have to make a lot of changes in that. As I said, in the labs, only senior students are allowed. But if you have a set of gifted children who are already, as one example, Dr. Jyoti said that there was a student who was in class 8 and who was taking coaching with class 11 students. So in case there are such students in my school, why can't I be open and flexible in my system where these children can get the opportunities? Of course, we have to find the ways, we have to work on that. It is not an easy thing, with a lot of pressures from the management, a lot of pressures from the department, with a lot of pressure from the parents. But I believe if we have a will, we can find the ways. And that is what I would say at the end, that it is our take. It is the duty of every person, every educated person, whether we are teachers, whether we are parents. We have to think out of the box. First of all, we need to be gifted. It's a gift for us that we are teachers. Everybody cannot be teacher. So let us accept it as a gift by the God, that we are given that precious gift of being a teacher, where we have the future of these children in our hand. We have future of the world, future of the country in our hand. So first, let us feel that gifted, and then think of somehow nurturing that giftedness in the children that we have. So with that closing remark, thank you so much once again, NayaBharat and Professor Numesh, me to share my views. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Meenakshi ji. So that was a good view from the schools. I request Ramchandra ji to share his experiences with the network of schools that he represents.
Audible?
Yes, you're audible but not visible. But I think you can begin. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you, Professor. Thank you, Jyoti ji, for. I would just like to say a few words, because most of my words have already been expressed by the honorable panelists. Navodaya Vidyalaya is a public education system, a residential system specifically for their education. For understanding this is that the gifted children find it really difficult to. Is my voice coming, sir?
Yes, we can hear you now, Ramchandra ji. There was a little lag, but it's better now.
Yeah. Okay, the gifted find it really difficult to. Also found public education system, the rest of the students find it really suffocated and develop guilty feeling, as the entire oxygen of the classroom is consumed by these a few in the classroom. That's one issue. And I really personally feel that if we do not right time and age, they may be very detrimental to themselves, as Professor Jyoti ji has already said. The experimentation with gifted children in Navodaya has begun with Office of the Principal Scientific Advisor connecting us to Professor Jyoti Sharma in 2017. All that what Professor Jyoti said, we experimented by having a stratified school of around 30 schools in the Chandigarh region, Patna region, Hyderabad region, and Pune region across India, so to say. We have taken, and then the principals were trained, and then senior teachers were also trained along with them. Then it was followed by screening test. Again, the qualified children, around 642 of them, were given the science and mathematics aptitude test. this was a little tougher time, as Meenakshi ji was telling, that the rest of the students, they just started questioning whether the talent, rather the giftedness, is only within the group of science and mathematics. So it took little time for us to make them understand that we are now beginning with science and mathematics. And again, after the test and then shortlisting, uh, Professor Jyoti was kind to organize a workshop. We brought them to Delhi University from across the country, and that was a really great experience for most of us to understand that these children really have tremendous super abilities. This was getting proved in their attitude, their thoughts. Otherwise, like the most of the things what is told by Dr. Meenakshi ji. Unlike that, in Navodaya system, most of the parents do not know that their children are doing something greater. If I can give an example, more than 1,200, 300 children join IIT. 50% of the parents do not know that they have joined an IIT. They would say that my boy or girl has gone to a college. That's it. So this kind of an environment we have, the parents' understanding of the child and required support is to be compensated by the school. But after doing all these things, we were really having great lessons from this. One, there is an urgent need for an institutional plan and simultaneously this individual student plan to grow, to nurture these gifted with all the care and sensitivity. Then again, requirement of individual mentoring and linking with expertise faculty. This is an Herculean task. We have found out around 32 students who have come out of these workshops, but connecting them to a real mentor of the liking of the mentor as well as the student is a very big challenge because of the location, their level of connections, these issues. And another issue is we have, Professor Jyoti has already said that we have a greater problem of vertical mobility. The gifted children, if they are provided accelerated programs, they can outnumber and then they can go and join better programs or programs of their interest. Then another issue is about the future training for the faculty and also the alternative mode of mentoring. As Professor Jyoti was referring, probably we need not have to have a different system to gather, rather deliver this giftedness program in our schools. The large number. Other thing is the schools distributed very largely, very widely. So I would just like to mention some of the challenges which we are. That is one is about fluctuations in the theme and focus of the students. Depending upon the exposure they get, their thoughts and then focus points also keeps on changing. The another challenge we have is a need of volunteers inside the school and in the school management as well as amongst the mentors. Without the volunteers, we would not be able to take it. Just for instance, the voluntary support from CIs helped us to understand that there are large number of gifted students with us. And the next is about institutional support to host the gifted. Some of the experiments we did, we took the students to IITs and for instance, JNC runs Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research under Department of Science and Technology runs a regular residential program for Navodaya students where they can go and stay there for preferably long time to work with the faculty to experiment their own projects. And another issue is, as we are a public system, the financial positions of the parents also speaks rather calls for administrative and financial support to take these children. We have found that in many cases, children have missed the track and then they choose to go for some alternative programs without being able to pursue their passion. This requires a lot of financial support. Professor Ramamurthy ji has already said how much energy it requires and it consumes to bring up the gifted. Although it is a small number, but help to them, as Professor Ramamurthy has said, will be a great advantage for the nation. As being in the public system, as also in the geographically distributed school system, I strongly believe that we have to go to the individual child rather than expecting them to come to us and then show up themselves. We have found amongst during this exercise itself, we have found that many of the students are may not be expressive as we like. We have quite often found, because I have been in the system for almost 3 decades, I have found that whenever there was a problem in the school, when we went and studied, the focus was that there is a child who is getting suffocated in the common environment. They're uncommon people. So we need to go to them, search them, and then bring them up. It will be beneficial for us. And Professor Jyoti ji has given a very, very, very nice and critical roadmap for us to work with. I really thank Professor Nomesh ji and his team for providing this opportunity. Professor Ramamurthy has also been supporting the Navodaya system from the NIAS end. So somehow the multi-directional support is required, because this problem is also multi-dimensional. Therefore, the solution also required to be multi-dimensional. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ramachandra ji. I will come back to you with a specific question that I have. But before that, I want to request Vinayak ji to share his experiences as a parent of a gifted child. Vinayak ji, I request you to please stick to the time and please let us know your
Okay. Thank you, Professor Ramesh, and thank you, Professor Dr. Jyoti Sharma, for their stellar presentations. I actually learned a lot and found it very useful for my own personal consumption. So thank you very much for your discussion, your points, and your talk. Let me just talk a little bit about the challenges and the joy. But before I do that, let me talk a little bit about how my journey has progressed with Shivin over the last few years, and how did we sort of dealt with it, the way we move forward from here. So initially, when he was only 3 years old, he had a lot of questions, and those questions still continue. There are at least 20 questions, and every time you sort of respond to a question, there is a counter question, and then the counter question to that, and then a counter question to that. So it have to be very, very sort of observant, read up a lot, sort of update your own knowledge base to the interest which he has, which might not have been the same as mine, but you just have to do that. And the other thing is that once, when he was around 5 years old, he got interested in chess. So we went to this Indira Gandhi indoor stadium for this very big chess competition, and he actually sat and played chess with people twice and age. And at one point, he kept on playing that one game for 2.5 hours when he was 5. And that sort of thought made me think a little bit more, because my takeaway was, this is a little different. We need to sort of look at it differently. We sort of need to get it assessed. So that is the time when I actually started doing my research and approached Dr. Professor Jyoti Sharma and said, okay, now let's look at it scientifically. Let's look at it, and obviously I will need some expert guidance on how to go about it, because I had no clue at that time how to deal with this, how to understand it, what sort of things we need to look out for, what sort of things we need to sort of really encourage and stuff like that. So Dr. Professor Jyoti Sharma really guided us. She first assessed him around the Whisker scale of 4, and then CAD as well, because he was only 5.5 at that time. He's 8 now. And then she mentioned that there is a need for accelerated education. So we said yes, and we started talking to him, talking to the teachers. The teachers, definitely one of them, and when he was in Montessori, came back saying that he thinks very differently. Just definitely thinks very differently. So with this assessment, we went to the school and we talked. They said that they don't have a system as of gifted education or accelerated education as of now. Although the system was really looking at how to sort of support students who were not performing too well and to sort of bring them up, but not going on the gifted side. So that's when we looked around and looked at IB and started working on that. So that's how we are now looking at how best we address his concerns, because every day there are new questions, new set of questions, new challenges. And the other challenges are very unique in the sense that these kids are extremely sensitive. And if you raise your decibel level by, say, 1 point or a pitch by 1 point, hell breaks loose. I mean, there's just a lot of tears, a lot of emotion that just comes gushing out. So you have to be very careful, talk to them, reason with them, be very logical with them, and then they understand. Because that's how they perceive things, because their perceptions are very different and the way they infer things is very different. And we need to really be able to guide them, challenge them, and at the same time, encourage them on how to go forward from there. My one question to Dr. Jyoti Sharma is if we keep sort of constantly giving these challenges, then is there a point where there can be a burnout? I do not know. I really want to understand that, because as a parent, it's our primary duty to really make sure that there is no burnout, but they are constantly encouraged and motivated to go forward from there. Number one. Sometimes when he does come back from school, he says, oh, maths was very boring. That's the other time when your alarm bells start ringing. Oh, we need to look at that. We need to address that. Now, how do we go about that? So then we look at different kinds of books and tools and start actually looking at how to sort of take up maths at a notch higher. Luckily, in the current school which he is in, I mean, the GNT program is really very good. They have this coordinator who gives them a freedom to really make presentations and discussion on any topic they have. So Shiven the other day was presenting on how to extract energy from a black hole. The time before that, he was talking about the end of the universe. What are the 3 scenarios and which one he believes in and why? So those are the things which keep coming up, and the discussion just keeps going forward from there. So the joy is waking up every day to a hell of a lot of new questions and issues which they suddenly come up in the morning, and they just say, Appam, what if the snailfish which lives in the Marina Trench, if you bring that up to the seabed level, will it be the fastest fish on Earth? Because if they are on the Marina Trench, there's so much of weight on them, and that's how they are moving. So, okay, let me come back to you on that. So those are the things and challenges. It's a joy and definitely a challenge, because you really want to make sure that they don't get bored. They are adequately supported so that they can really move forward from there and really are able to shine the way they should and the way they are expected to. So thank you. That's basically it from my side. If there are any more questions, I would, Professor Namesh, you would like to ask, or anything you would like me to elaborate, I'll be more than happy to do so. Thank you.
Yeah, no, Vinayji, that is wonderful. Actually, very, very, cute and interesting at the same time. When you mentioned the question, I started thinking of what I would answer if my son were to ask that question to me. What if the fish comes up from Marina Trench to the surface? What exactly will happen? But no, great questions, and it's clear that while it is a lot of joy seeing your kid do such wonderful different things, but also a lot of responsibility, and that's what the challenge is, right? Particularly when it comes with so much of emotional baggage, apparently, right? So that's
Yes.
wonderful. Vinayk ji, I will come back to you, but before that, let me just, Jyoti ji, in the interest of time, let me just ask you this question for your, intervention here on this panel. So these are all great ideas. The project essentially what it did is took some kids from schools, all kinds of schools, and brought them to CIC, right? If I understand correctly.
Yes.
Now, in in the interest of scaling up, do you see this as the only mode of taking gifted education forward, or can schools create some spaces, some programs, independent of a university, independent of the DU, right? How do we scale up otherwise?
Yeah, good question. In fact, see, this project was very well funded by the Office of PSA, and Dr. Chidambaram personally took keen interest in this. So basically, we could scale it up and we could experiment. But we realized that collaboration between the higher education institutes and the school was a difficult task. Because you really need a very compassionate, dedicated team who is exclusively working on this. We could not continue with the mentoring program. We did in bits and pieces because it was a project, and it was over and above responsibility. What we are doing in the university, fine, getting the right kind of people who can do the mentoring part. So mentoring always remained a concerned area for us. We can develop capacity, we can do capacity building at school levels. So we can have clusters within. So you identify school cluster where you have 20 schools, 25 schools, 100 schools, and within that cluster you can have a gifted research center, gifted education center. So fine. Now, the school, within the community of the schools and the principals, whatever they can coordinate that center, and the expertise can come to the schools and to that center, and they can do the mentoring part. When we were scaling up, this is the challenge, because you require a very efficient local support in that local setup. The university team going there, doing that field working, because it is basically a grassroots level identification process. So unless we get a very reliable support from the local quarters, it was not easy for us. The second is, yes, you are right. Why we got them to CIC? Because we have that kind of ecosystem which would support them. We have good labs and a very passionate set of colleagues who believed in this cause, and they worked together. So, but I personally believe that the collaboration between higher education institutes is very important, because from grade 9 onwards, it is important that these kids should get exposure of research and pure sciences, and maybe advanced level of accelerated curriculum. But yes, at primary level, for example, if we are doing at early childhood level, so you have Anganwadis, you have Bal Vatikas, you have the kindergarten schools, and you can have very nice activity centers within those schools, so that model can be developed. So even at primary level, we can have the collaboration between the higher education institutes and schools should be there.
Right.
Professor, if I can add a word.
Yes, please. Yeah, please go ahead.
Actually, we experimented with some of the ICERs, Agastya, and as well as Jawaharlal Nehru Center for Advanced Scientific Research. Our understanding is that the problem which the child is pursuing, being gifted, are really serious. And they cannot be addressed by the school. That's a major issue we have. And some of the teachers find it really difficult to satisfy the children. For instance, I can just give you an example. There is one child in remote area of Adilabad. In the corona period, he has reached to not less than 10 laboratories in India that he would like to present a model for the of the infection, corona infection, from computational point of view, and he wanted a sample. This was something very difficult. Nobody could satisfy him. So he has written to National Institute of Virology. Like that, he has their passions and problems are very serious and really matured. Therefore, as Professor Jyoti Sharma says, the collaboration with higher education institutions and very munificent educations like you are very, very essential.
Right. Right. No, so I completely understand. In fact, I really like what Jyotiji said, right? Which is there are two elements that I discerned from your response, Jyotiji. One is that we need to follow a sort of cluster approach where several schools get together to sort of develop a GRC, you said, but it can probably be GREC, right? Research and Execution Center, where these needs can probably be addressed at the same time of several schools. And the second one is these can also be sort of graded, right? So a GREC for primary level can be, for example, hosted even out of the higher education institutions. But a GREC for the sort of middle and high school levels will probably need to be, it is better, fit and suited for a higher education institution. IITs, ICERs are examples, but there could be others also, right? And I completely understand. In fact, maybe the government can think about recognizing some IITs who develop such a center, right? For us, since there is all these ecosystem already existing, maybe it is not so difficult if there is one faculty member who's really interested in sort of taking it up, right? This can be sort of our CSR, right? Our sort of responsibility of giving back can also be taken in that way.
Completely agree with this.
Yeah. No, but so that's good to know. So there are some thoughts on how this can be scaled up as well, I think, which is very important, right? To be really able to realize the entire gift. But a related question is to, Meenakshi ji, and then also to you, Jyoti ji, is, to my mind, right, an ideal education would be where we don't have to craft these extra programs for gifted children, right? Our main core education itself should be able to address the needs of such students through several means, right? And we can all figure it out at our own level, but through several means. The question to you, Meenakshi ji, is does the NEP enable any such provisions for schools that are interested and have the ability to take it forward that way? That, so I'm saying there is a school, the school says, well, importance of gifted children, right? But we may or may not have a CIC sort of setup, but we are willing to invest in such a setup, right? Where, some of these kids can actually be taken out for flexible education. Does the NEP enable you to do that? And if yes, for example, will your own school be able to take this cudgels, right? Can it think of, dare to imagine that such a thing can be set up in your own school? You're muted, Meenakshi ji, you're muted. No, Meenakshi ji, sorry, you're still muted.
Yeah. Am I audible now?
Yes, please.
So if you talk about NEP, Professor Namesh, the very essence of NEP is that it should provide a quality education and an equity education too, So I think there is a lot of scope. NEP is just a policy that has been provided for as a guideline to all of us. And I can say that when we talk about any school system, I can talk about the private public schools. Being a public school principal, I can say that every public school has this much of freedom to innovate and experiment. But the thing is that managing that and getting sanctions and approvals from those private managements and making them understanding and getting all those things was a little difficult till this time. But when in this new education policy, National Education Policy 2020, it has been documented that we need to work on the gifted education also. So I think if we have that, kind of an aspirations to work for these children, there are ways which can be, somehow, worked upon. And I think the schools don't have a lack of resources. If we approach, if we try, we can get all those resources. That is number one. For example, if I talk about my own school, I know if I will approach CIC, if I'll approach Dr. Jyoti, she will be able to guide me and give me the proper guidance related to that. And there could be, kind of ways in which we can somehow get our teachers, well acquainted with that. But yes, of course, for that, a proper funding will be required. That will be one of the major concern for any public school principal like me, that we need to work. The first phase of that should be to invest on the teacher development, the in-service training of the teachers, where they are well equipped with this idea of the gifted children, and to identify these gifted children, and to work on that in a normal classroom setup. We need to make them competent enough to we need to equip them that how they have to handle it. And for that, of course, there are, I'm pretty sure when we talk about what you call that, new education system that came with the grading system and all that, there were a lot of agencies which were there, and I think we have to explore that. And I think we all, if we are willing, we can do that. As far as my personal school is concerned, of course, definitely we'll do that. And I'm pretty sure my management would agree to work on that. That we will definitely do. And I'm very sure Dr. Jyoti is going to help us out in that.
Yes. So, Dr. Jyoti, you already have one agency, right, on the field, and I too, actually. So that's wonderful. Jyoti ji, your response to what I asked, and also, one more thing where I wanted your response was, um, so it is one thing to do this at the school level, meaning it is not a good idea for the child's growth to imagine a school which has only gifted children, right? Because they do need other people, right? Of course, right? So you understand that very well. But the question that was popping in my head when the session was going on is, at the university level, will it be a good idea to think of a university that caters only to gifted children?
Basically, the three questions, in fact, basically I'll answer them step by step. Before NEP came, there are schools like the Shriram School, which is a premium school in Delhi. So Shriram School approached to develop a gifted education program exclusively for their school. So when they came to know that this kind of work has been done, then the pathways again came for this, to develop an exclusive program for them. The DAV organization, because under DAV there are, I think, 900 schools all across the country. So the DAV school organization also approached us to develop a specific program for them. So there was awareness at the school level, but they were doing it individually at their level. So they had funding, and they had a vision and passion to do it. Now, since we have NEP and there is a mandate to support gifted children, the Ministry of Education is already pursuing a program called Dhruv. Last year, they had one episode of Dhruv, and probably they are going to continue it further. So it is another scheme which is going on. But since there is a mandate in NEP 2020, so I'm sure there'll be an implementation plan to have flexible curriculum provisions, because if we talk about the percentage, it is a very, very small percentage, So every school making a gifted education program is a very utopian vision, So let's be practical and sensible also. So, but we should have a, there should be curriculum provisions and the promotion scheme. So the flexible, so accelerate. So there are very scientifically designed programs for them. So if there is a gifted child in your school and there is a gifted educator who is recommending, so let's say we have logistics and procedures to identify such children, nominate that child for that kind of acceleration, so that child can take up mathematics, accelerated program in mathematics, but continuing the same grade program in social science or in language. So that kind of multitudinal approach is needed if we really want to make it a success. This concept of exclusive schools are gifted. It had been tried in probably US and in some other countries. These were called magnet schools, and yes, these schools are not very successful because segregating the child in an exclusive school is not an idea. Allow the child to be in the group the child wants to, but at university level probably you don't need to set up exclusive university probably, but university does have a lot of windows, so you can engage these children in the research, and we have a center of excellence like IITs and ICES, so probably these children can be recommended for that, and one-to-one mentoring where these children, if I'm talking about from the point of view science, so they can be associated with labs and research with expert scientists and researchers and academicians. So that can be taken up. Probably we can start from here. Maybe at a later stage we can think about an exclusive university or a center.
Okay, great.
There
So
are more than 500 such institutes.
Yeah.
Each of them take 4 or 5 students, depending upon, as Professor Nomesh said, depending upon at least host 5,000 in a year.
Yeah, no, that's absolutely true, Ramchandraji. In fact, this is something that even Professor Ramamurthy alluded to, right? That some of these institutions, at least if not all, can take some students. So, I mean, that then also a beginning would be made. And if we continue that for some years and the results are evident, I'm sure several other institutions will jump in, right? Who doesn't want an Einstein to be its alum, for example, right? In the very best case, right? Very, very best case. Or a Ramanujan to be their alumni, and which school would not want that to happen, right? So I think, but I mean, we are way far from those situations right now. One question for Vinayak ji. Vinayak ji, you can hear me, right? So so we did not really get the home side of the conversation going as much, right? And so 2 questions. And if feel free to edit out any confidential details, right? So we are not trying to get into your personal lives at all, right? But just to understand how things happen. Can you give us 2 questions, right? So can you give us an example of one wonderful, thing that your kid did, right? That Shivain did. So you gave an example of a question, right? So I got that. So I understand how varying the questions can be, right? So, and that was a beautiful question. I mean, just being able to connect Marina Trench with that, fascinating. That's very nice. But can you give an example of something that Shivan actually did, in terms of an activity or something that he tried to attempt to solve or whatever, if there is any? And second is, I can understand from whatever you described, given that there are emotions and given that there are high emotional, intensities in various ways involved. How did you manage all of this with your job? Because I'm sure this would take a lot of time, right? And your job also, I'm sure, if it's in the World Bank, it's fairly demanding, right? So how did you try to sort of carve out that balance? Because there are parents watching us, and I'm sure they would be interested in knowing about this.
Well, let me answer your second question first. It's definitely very encouraging because both Ashima and I are, Ashima really had a company on her own, but she sort of gave that company up to make sure that look after Shivan and sort of really support him going forward from there. And we take out a lot of our time to discuss with him, to sort of talk to him. We have we have a solid exchange of ideas, concepts going forward, and then the other thing which we do is we also do a lot of traveling of our own, and all our travels are sort of geared up towards him and what he is really liking or understanding and what he wants to see and exploring, and so all that goes on with that. So like example, like going to a science fair, going to a science exploration, going to planetariums, going to aquariums, and those kind of things which we keep doing rather than joy kind of a holiday. And it's a lot of our trips are based on education and understanding not just science, not just areas, but also cultures, also understanding environment, how environment blends with us, what sort of impact we are having on environment. So when we go there, we try to look at that angle wherever we go. For example, in Kerala, then I explain a lot to him what I am doing, and then he wants to help me by saying, okay, Appam, maybe you can do XYZ as well, and stuff like that. So then we discuss that and we sort of arrive on certain commonalities and take it forward from there. I mean, grandparents are a big help, certainly. I mean, they are the ones who, my father was the one who started playing chess with him, teaching him chess. And then he started growing on that. Ashima started working with him on origami. Now, origami basically being an art is also actually pure maths. You look at it in a certain way, it's pure maths. And he can actually spend hours doing origami, literally hours. And then Dr. Professor Jyoti Sharma also suggested introduce him to music. So I said, yeah, he listens to music and all. He said, no, he needs to play an instrument. So we started looking at playing, teaching him piano. Luckily, there was in our apartment complex, there was this person who also used to teach piano. So he started doing that. Then she came back to me and said that Vinayak, he likes the theory of music a lot more than actually playing keys. But I said, okay, but that's all mathematical again. I mean, so those are the things that is his comfort zone. And his passion. So basically, as a parent to other parents, I would say is that encourage the child, listen to him or her, and have a discussion with them. At the same time, don't just shove them away. Don't just keep saying, okay, enough of questions. I've had enough. I've also had a very heavy day. No, you have to create time. As a parent, it's your primary job to create that time and space. And these two, for an 8-year-old, now Shivan is 8, are completely blurred, that they don't exist. But it's your job as a parent to really carve out that time and also do your background research for his next questions. Because he asks you certain questions during the day, I say, okay, let me come back to you on that. And the next morning, you moment he goes to sleep, you go on the net, you do all your research, come back. Well, you have another set of questions, but that's besides the point. Yeah, that come up. But that's the way it is. And that's the joy, the challenge. That's the way I see it, and that's how we sort of look at it. And that's why I'm also very grateful to the current school he is in the IB school, because we did a lot of research, and this school is particularly noted for his GNT program, Gifted and Talented program. And the coordinator is really very, very encouraging and really takes, really special attention to talk to those students, give them that space, give them that freedom to present what they want to do, and then take that up even further and discuss that even more with them. Then the last time when that session was going on, he said to her, he's only 8, and he said, I want to learn trigonometry. I said, okay, I'll teach you trigonometry. So that's how it should be, and give them, basically the way I see it, just give them that space and the freedom to express and go ahead. And definitely not what Dr. Meenakshi Gupta and I were discussing yesterday was, she was very right in saying that don't live your dreams with your child. Let the child have their own dreams and their own aspirations, because their neurons work differently, and let them go up differently, right? That's the way I see it. What has he created? He's more into abstract things, like extracting energy from a black hole, and he wants to now build in 2050. He wants to build a Dyson sphere, which sort of takes energy from. I mean, I learned it 2 nights ago after he was sleeping. What a Dyson sphere is extracting energy from the sun, and then he wants to do fusion energy. He said that's more cleaner instead of fission. So I said, okay, now how do we go about doing that? He said we need to mine mercury. I said, okay, so how do we go about doing that? So that's how you keep engaging and encouraging and challenging, and you go on and on and on. So those are the things he's doing. Other things that they are sensitive in the sense, like even when he's reading a book, and if there's a scary part in that book, he just closes his ears because their their reactions are very different. So it's cute, it's funny, but you just enjoy it and you just live with it. Yeah, right, Dr. Jyoti Sharma?
The other important thing is don't expect to be gifted all the time. There are lean periods also. So you need to deal with a lot of patience,
Yeah,
And
I fully agree with you.
be negligible, nothing. So enjoy them what they are.
Great,
I
wonderful. So
totally agree
that's
with you. Yeah.
Yeah. No, Vinayji, that was lovely. That was very nice. Thanks for sharing that. That indeed is, gives us some idea of how differently these beautiful kids can think about things. So before we end, just two more questions from YouTube. The first question is what I'd like to pose to Ramachandra ji and Meenakshi ji. The question is, we see gifted children being treated rudely by teachers sometimes, hopefully. What are the remedies available in such instances? Any suggestions?
Before they go, can I just come in a little bit on this particular point?
I can.
There are instances when when Shivin says my teacher is wrong. And there are instances when he says my teacher was not correct when she said XYZ. So there are incidents as well. So that's where the teachers also need to sort of really, look at it and approach it from a very different perspective, I suppose. But that's from a layman, parent's point of view. I leave it to the experts. Yeah.
Absolutely. That's useful.
Yeah,
Ramchandra ji?
this is too much a technical question. And Professor, it is right that most of the times, I have done at least 300 inquiries in my schools. Most of the times I find that elders could not really understand the spirit of the child and the passion of the child. And I even many a times I wrote that the misbehavior of the teacher is on account of his immaturity. They really feel helpless. They are gifted, and most of our systems are hierarchical. Most of our school systems. You see, the very fact that we have a textbook, it restricts the child to be within that framework. The second thing, we teach from the blackboard to the child, allow the child to unfold his mind. So the democratic learning environment of unfolding the concepts in the mind of the children permitted. Otherwise, we will be really disturbing their thought process. The remedy, as I say, that we have to educate the teachers, and continuous training is required. For instance, I can quote a small example. There is one child, I told you, the Adilabad child. All of a sudden, in December, the principal says that he has not attended 10th class, even 20%. It is a residential school. He is in the campus, but all the time this child is in the laboratory only, is doing. And then principal found me to negotiate with him. Is a great principal. He said, oh, can you talk to him? Then midnight we had a talk. He had a freedom. Except in any other schools, this boy was permitted to carry a mobile in the school. At 12 in the midnight we talked. Then he quickly asked, what does the principal want? And I said, Baba, he wants you to pass class 10th. That's no problem, sir. He says, believe me, from January he started reading. February end, this examination started last year, and he got 80%. He said, it's not a problem. My problem is something else. I have to pursue it first. So that passion is to be understood. So this training is to be given to the teachers. And as I said, two things. One, when they are in school, we have to protect that passion. And many a times we may not be capable of giving that support. So, as early as possible, we have to find a mentor and then hand over that child to the mentor. Otherwise, we will be missing him.
No, that's wonderful, Ramchandra. That's very useful. Meenakshi ji, I think that was the answer from a systems point of view, right? What can the system itself do as a remedy in such situations? I think the question could also be, I'm not sure whether the person who asked it is a parent or an educator, but the question could also be from a parent's point of view, So can you answer what is the remedy available to a parent when he or she realizes that their kid is not being treated right according to them in their perception?
I think for a parent, the best thing will be to immediately contact either the school counselor or the school principal and give them their view, point of view. Uh, and then let the counselor or the principal or whosoever is maybe the academic in charge, whatever is the system of the school, at least talk to them, tell them what exactly is happening. And I'm very sure that every person who is a part of the school system would love to work for the betterment of the child in whatever capacities we all can do. And as far as from the teacher's viewpoint, if I say that even if I don't have resources, I don't have anything, the only thing that can help out is the moment I, as a teacher, leave aside being the authoritative in the class. Rather than teaching, I start facilitating learning of the students. The moment I become a facilitator in the class, I think many of the problems can be solved, because we are in a habit of being authoritative. I know everything and I have to impart that to the children. So let us just be a facilitator, and as new education policy is talking about, let the children experiment and learn on their own. So the moment I take that approach, I think parents will not have any problem in coming to the school with with these kind of complaints. And I think it will be easier for the teacher also to identify these gifted children, and then how you handle them. Again, for that, the teacher has to fall back to the administration of the school, the system of the school, and how they can weave in such kind of a system in whatever ways they can help it out. So I think the first thing for a parent is to approach the school and school authorities and the person who is accountable for that in the system, and then tell them without complaining about the teacher that the teacher is not taking care of me. Just give some examples, some instances where you can make the teacher to be at least monitor, observe, and then come back to you. Because most of the time it is a kind of a tussle between the parent and the teachers that I can see. The parent would come with a complaint and the teacher would defend. So first of all, let us, that I said, that there is a need of trust building between the two parts, because I always keep on telling my parent that we both are like parent. In a family, it is the mother and the father who need to be in a total collaboration with each other, coordination with each other. For a school, when the child comes to the school, it is the parent and the school, which has to be in a total coordination for the child. If we keep on fighting with each other, how can we do good for the child? So I think that could be the only immediate solution for that I can think.
No, absolutely, Meenakshi, that's wonderful. I'm sure the person who asked it would have got good ideas, and I really like the fact that so escalating it to school is a great idea, updating them is a great idea, but not in a complaining tone, because nobody would like to address such a situation, right? So I think that's very helpful. Thank you so much, Jyoti ji. The last question to you. So there's a question which is, do we have something to accelerate the thought process of individual learners at very stage? If yes, how can I get it for my school? So apparently this is an educator, and maybe they're looking for some resources for accelerated learning. Also, I think a related question is, Jyoti ji. So there are other parts to it also, but essentially the question is, how can we help? So apparently the person who has asked this question, I think has felt touched by the topic. And so is there any way in which general people can help?
Yeah, in fact, it's a very good question. Basically, the one is, we can talk about specific programs for a gifted child, but you can have a very enriched and accelerated curriculum within the school to raise the standards for all the students. So the gifted child will definitely benefit, but it will help other students also. So you can have subject based accelerated programs where you can have wider base. For example, if you talk about in mathematics, so you can have a program which focused on the advanced learnings, and then you can have the skill based programs also. So for example, to develop programs to develop analytical skills or critical skills or problem solving skills or comprehension skills. So it can be done at both levels, and definitely it can be at grade level also, and you can have for middle grade and for secondary grade. But definitely a school can plan these kind of programs which can be in addition to what is the regular or existing curriculum is all about. So
Right. Okay, all right. So I think, a part of the question would have been answered, and I encourage. There is a question on whether there is special teachers training, etc., all as well, Jyotiji. But I think we would, in the interest of time, restrict that here. And I encourage all the participants who are watching us to, these are very specific questions, to write to us, and we'll be very happy in, going back to Jyotiji and all others esteemed panelists here, so that if there is a specific response that we have for you, we can get back to you. We'll be very happy to do that facilitation and connection. So with that, I think I would really like to bring this to a closure. I think we've been sitting here for more than 3 hours. Kudos to all of you panelists. I understand we are organizers, but for you to sit through 3 hours on a Sunday evening, that matters a lot. Thank you so much for doing this for us and the entire audience, of course. I think there are brilliant takeaways for me as an individual. I was able to relate to many of the things that you talked about. I have not yet maybe had a direct experience with a gifted child, right? Maybe, although if I think more about it, maybe I'll come across some traits as being displayed by some gifted children. But these were very useful. I think we got a sense of how we can identify giftedness, and essentially thinking differently, trying to go deep into certain things, having passion for certain things, and so on. So basically, anything that is different, not deliberately creating trouble, but just being a challenge sometimes for people due to being different. I think that would be one way to sort of identify giftedness, and that's very important. And then I think our takeaway was just knowing that there is at least some agency in the form of the PSA office which is interested, and the NIAS which is interested, Agastya which is interested, and DU and the CIC, of course, which has been developing these resources. So if you have any specific needs in terms of developing curricula or material or resources or programs, we know where to go, right? And if we want to look at how a government or a sort of more systematic bureaucratic institution can do these things, we always have Ramchandraji to refer to on how he was able to do that for the Navodaya system. So these are deep insights, very good learnings. We will continue to keep in touch with you to take this forward, subject to your availability, of course. I would also, as we come to the end of this webinar, thank all of you and Professor Ramamurthy, who had to leave due to some urgent requirements. So thank you so much. This discussion has been very good, very useful, insightful, as well as sensitive and touching. I would, before we leave, like to tell you about the next session. That is on the 28th of February, and the theme for that is storytelling for school education. And the point is, while we have all enjoyed stories as children, and despite having a phenomenal, very phenomenal native tradition of storytelling, our country, we have somehow ignored this aspect in our formal schooling. Storytelling can create very meaningful learning opportunities rather than just being presented with facts and information. I'm sure everybody agrees. And please attend this webinar to know how this can actually be done in schools. We will also have Sudha Murthy, who is a very famous author, philanthropist, as the chief guest to share her experiences on what role stories have played in her own journey. Do participate in the webinar, as we'll have experts from other diverse backgrounds, including a teacher who will talk about how something like science can be done through stories. And finally, we move towards the end of the webinar. We can't end this day without a very big thank you, as I've already done. But once again, to all the speakers who graced the webinar today, Professor V.S. Ramamurthy, Professor Jyoti Sharma, Dr. Meenakshi Gupta, Shri N. Ramachandran ji, and last but not the least, to Vinayak ji, for taking out the time and sharing your experiences, vision, and thoughts with us. I would also like to thank everyone in the audience who has been very patiently waiting in the webinar today. I would also take this opportunity to thank the entire IIT Delhi administration and the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan team for supporting us all through this webinar. in particular Professor V.K. Vijay, who's the coordinator of the Unnat Bharat Abhiyan, the national coordinator, as well as the rest of the team who has been helping us. Additionally, we also have the National Subject Advisory Committee headed by Dr. Chidambaram and Professor Rajendra Prasad as its vice chairman. Thank you so much for all of them to guide us and to continuously support us in everything that we have been doing. Please stay up to date and feel free to share your suggestions, questions, queries on any of our social media handles. So we are available on almost every social media handle you can think of. As we conclude our day, I would like to end with a very famous quote, and I quote, "What makes a child gifted and talented may not always be good grades in school, but a different way of looking at the world and learning." With this, I officially declare the closure of the webinar. Thank you.